Chapter 771. Seeing Lin Tian and Bai Ziqi's current actions, everyone's eyes widened. They were all in a daze, surprised and embarrassed. These two were actually fighting each other in order to kill the last enemy. Boom! Clang! Thunder rumbled, and the sound of swords clanged, constantly interweaving in this void. Lin Tian waved his golden iron fist. Just as he was about to hit the great Dao expert from the Stone God clan, he was kicked away by Bai Ziqi. Then, Bai Ziqi raised his large hand covered in purple lightning. Without using any remarkable skills, he slapped it towards the great Dao expert from the Stone God clan. Lin Tian's speed was very fast. He struck out with a fist light, blasting away Bai Ziqi's large hand. The towering sword light slashed towards the great Dao expert from the Stone God clan. Boom! A bolt of pure Yang Thunder God purple lightning struck down, instantly shattering Lin Tian's sword radiance. Immediately after that, dense bolts of lightning rained down, covering the great path cultivator of the Stone God clan. Wang! The reincarnation diagram flashed and flew past, annihilating all the lightning and completely sealing off the surrounding space. It was like an apocalyptic millstone pressing down on the great Dao expert from the Stone God clan. A bolt of lightning flashed in Bai Ziqi's eyes. He rushed over with the support of the Divine Cry Palace, blocking the reincarnation diagram. Then, he supported the great Celestial King arcane art of the Bai clan and slammed his palm towards the great Dao expert from the Stone God clan. Lin Tianyi stepped forward and similarly supported the great Celestial King arcane art. His celestial palm pressed down, blocking Bai Ziqi's great Celestial King arcane art. Then, he swung his sword towards the great Dao expert from the Stone God clan. Boom! 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 The two of them fought each other to kill the last great Dao expert from the Stone God clan. All kinds of remarkable skills collided. It was unknown how much stronger they were when they were fighting against the other dozens of great Dao experts. The void cracked inch by inch, and the ground collapsed. The barbarian race's third elder, was a little stunned. Boom! 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 Astonishing divine might intertwined. Lin Tian and Bai Ziqi fought, and the intensity of the battle became even more astonishing. White pig, get out of the way! Lin Tian Dao. He waved his towering sword radiance, cutting through the sky and pressing down on the Stone God race cultivator. Mine? Bai Ziqi's expression was indifferent. He used the divine thunder of origin to blast away Lin Tian's towering sword radiance. Then he used the divine roar palace to suppress the cultivator from the Stone God clan, sealing the space in all directions. Lin Tian used the reincarnation diagram to cut off the Shun Ming palace. Then he summoned the vision in his sea of consciousness and rushed toward the stone deity race cultivators. Bai Ziqi also raised the spiritual sea anomaly and blocked Lin Tian's spiritual sea anomaly. Then he slammed his palm towards the Stone God clan's expert. Ka! Neither of them gave way to the other. They fought until the sky kept shaking. A terrifying aura spread in all directions. It was appalling. The Stone God clan's expert was caught in the fight between the two. He was swept to the east and west by the hurricanes. He faced death dozens of times, but in the end, he was either neutralized by Bai Ziqi or neutralized by Lin Tian. This caused him to feel fear before he died again and again. In the end, dense blood vessels appeared in his eyes, and he roared like a madman. He tried to escape, but Lin Tian and Bai Ziqi were in the middle of the battlefield. He could not escape at all. Every time, his escape route was cut off by the tyrannical divine might. There was no way for him to escape. His resistance was indescribably weak. Under the divine roar palace and the reincarnation diagram, his most powerful principle was useless. He could not do anything to the two. I've had enough. Ah! The Stone God clan's expert roared. His eyes were red and covered in blood vessels. A violent, chaotic divine power rushed out in an instant. Instantly, the expressions of the barbarian tribe's patriarch and the others changed. Oh no! Whooshing crocodile glared. These two warmongers forced a fourth heaven of the great Tao to self-destruct. Ah! The Stone God clan's expert roared. Under the fight between Lin Tian and Bai Ziki, he faced death again and again. Even though he was a great Dao realm expert and had a strong mental state, he could not bear the feeling of facing death again and again. This was simply a kind of torture, a kind of cruel torture. He directly chose to self-destruct. The space shook violently. In the blink of an eye, a tyrannical aura of destruction interweaved. The body of the Stone God clan's expert instantly swelled up like a balloon. Even his face changed shape. Lin Tian was moved. Bai Ziki was also moved. With just a glance, they could tell what the Stone God clan's expert was doing. A ray of light flashed in Lin Tian's eyes. The yin-yang ho flashed and directly stepped over. The reincarnation diagram pressed down mightily. With a boom, Bai Ziki did not fall behind. The divine roar palace's lightning soared into the sky and also swept forward. Almost at the same time, the two kings' territories landed on the Stone God clan's expert. Puff! A bloody mist exploded. The self-destruction of the Stone God clan's expert of the Great Tao was interrupted. He was directly shattered by the two kings' territories. Even his spirit was annihilated. The barbarian tribe's army stared ahead in a daze. After seeing this scene, they all breathed a sigh of relief. "It's finally over," someone muttered. Seeing Lin Tian and Bai Ziki fighting for the right to kill the Stone God clan's expert first, these people were really a little embarrassed. On the battlefield, the reincarnation diagram shone brightly, and the divine roar palace flashed with lightning. More than half of his physique and spirit were destroyed by me. I won. Lin Tian looked at Bai Ziki and said with a smile. Bai Ziki snorted coldly. Without saying anything, he put away the divine roar palace. In comparison, it was indeed as Lin Tian said. His divine roar palace was still inferior to the reincarnation diagram. More than half of the Stone God clan's experts' physique and spirit were destroyed by the reincarnation diagram. His divine roar palace only shattered a small part of it. Based on this calculation, Lin Tian had indeed won. Bai Qiu breathed a sigh of relief and went up to greet them. The barbarian tribe's patriarch and the others also went up to greet them. All of them were a little shocked. They were shocked by Bai Ziki's thunder god physique, by the tyrannical power of the divine roar diagram supported by Lin Tian, and by the two's invincible combat strength. Even the barbarian tribe's patriarch, who was in the enlightenment realm, was no exception. He looked at the two and said, "Seeing these two young friends, I really feel that I'm old. Senior, your vitality is still vigorous and at the peak. You're not old," Lin Tian said courteously. He exchanged a few words with the barbarian tribe's patriarch. Then, he looked at the ground of the insect clan's main tribe and landed. At this time, the blood god pill's effect could last for about an hour. He landed on the ground of the insect clan's main tribe. The dragon patterns under his feet spread down. Suddenly, he saw 16 bright dragons. They were vast and boundless. They were the 16 immortal veins. At this moment, relying on the blood god pill, he was in the first heaven of the Great Path. He used a secret method to break the seal outside the 16 immortal veins of the insect clan. Then, he used the secret technique of the dragon burial scripture to compress the 16 immortal veins into 16 small dragons. After that, he cut open the ground and grabbed the 16 small dragons from the ground. He added a layer of the 4-symbol seal and then put them into the stone ring. The 16 immortal veins were nothing to him now. At least, they were not of much use to his cultivation. However, they were very useful in other places. For example, if he placed them under the Emergent sect or the Burning Sun sect, it would definitely make the two sects more prosperous. Their future achievements would be very shocking. Compressing the immortal veins to this extent, the 10 Great Path powerhouses of the barbarian tribe were shocked. They did not see the dragon patterns appear and did not know what method Lin Tian used. At this moment, when they saw this scene, they were a little shocked. They could not compress 16 immortal veins to the size of an inch with the pure cultivation of the Great Path realm. Now that they saw Lin Tian do it, they were naturally shocked by this method. Not even a strand of hair is left. Whooshing Crocodile clicked his tongue and said, "In the insect clan's main tribe, blood flowed. Broken corpses fell on the ground one by one. It was a shocking sight. Lin Tian turned and bowed slightly to the barbarian tribe's patriarch and the others. At this moment, he was ready to leave. You just went through a great battle. Why don't you come to my tribe to rest?" The barbarian tribe's patriarch asked him to stay and said, "The medicinal effects of the blood god pill will wear off soon. When that time comes, you won't be able to move. Come to my tribe, it will be much safer than outside." "Thank you for your kind intentions, Senior. However, it's not a problem. We still have companions who can protect us." Lin Tian shook his head and said, "In the future, I will definitely do my best to find the whereabouts of the hero. I will definitely find the hero." He exchanged a few words with the barbarian tribe's experts. In the end, he waved his hand and left with Bai Qiu, Bai Ziki, and Whooshing Crocodile. In the blink of an eye, the three people and the crocodile disappeared into the distant horizon. "They are all prodigies. True prodigies." The barbarian tribe's patriarch's eyes flashed. The barbarian tribe's grand elder could not help but nod. He looked at the departing figures of Lin Tian and the others. "Even if the hero grows to the peak in the future, I'm afraid he won't be able to compare to them. Those two people are really... Thinking about the divine might of Lin Tian and Bai Ziki at this moment, the barbarian tribe's eighth heaven great path expert's eyes could not help but flicker again. Too strong. They really had the bearing of invincibility. "All right, let's go back to the tribe and send more people to find the hero," the barbarian tribe's third elder said. "Yes, go back to the tribe and find the hero." The barbarian tribe's second elder nodded. At that moment, the barbarian tribe's patriarch spoke. The barbarian tribe's army began to retreat from the insect tribe's main territory in an orderly manner, heading towards the large mountain range where the barbarian tribe was located. Lin Tian and the others had already traveled a long distance away from the insect tribe's main territory. There's still a little time before the blood god pill's medicinal effect wears off. Before that, let's do some other things. Lin Tian on Dao. He appeared on a road that was relatively densely packed with people. He used his divine sense to display a series of images. It was the scene of him and Bai Ziki fighting the 25 great path experts from the Stone God's clan, the Bone God's clan, and the others, and killing them one by one. At the same time, he let out a loud and clear voice that spread far and wide. "Dark Shadow Tribe, Blood Wolf Tribe, Ant Tribe, Bone Tribe, Sea Tribe, Sorcerer Tribe, and Stone God Tribe. None of you can do it. You're too weak as chickens and pottery dogs." Immediately, all the cultivators on this road trembled. They were all shocked. Seeing Lin Tian's divine sense image and hearing Lin Tian's words, these cultivators were all shocked. For a long time, they could not utter a single word. When Lin Tian saw this, a faint light flashed across his eyes. He retreated and left. "Boy Lin, you're worried that you'll implicate the barbarian tribe. So you're deliberately telling the world that the great path experts from several large tribes were killed by you and Boy Bai, and that you have nothing to do with the barbarian tribe who went to the insect tribe's main territory with you?" Chapter 772. Lin Tian didn't comment on Whooshing Crocodile's words, but in fact, he did think so. In this region, everyone knew that he was in the connecting immortal realm. Dozens of great virtue realm experts from the Stone God clan, Bone clan, and Bone clan went to the center of the Zerg race to kill him, but in the end, all of them died. A few major clans might think that the barbarian tribe experts helped him kill the great virtue realm experts. After all, the barbarian tribe was the center of the Zerg race with him. In this way, it would naturally be risky for the barbarian tribe. Therefore, he used this divine consciousness imprint. He, Bai Qiu, Bai Ziki, and Whooshing Crocodile left this place. After a while, he trembled and fell straight down. At this moment, his complexion turned pale as an intense pain assaulted him. It was as if his heart was being pierced by thousands of arrows. He felt as if his flesh was being cut by sharp blades. This kind of pain was hundreds of times more painful than when he was condensing his divine veins. Even someone as powerful as him couldn't help but let out a painful groan and almost fainted. At the same time, Bai Ziki also fell down. He couldn't even move a finger. What happened to you? Bai Chio was shocked. Lin Tian opened his mouth. Moving his lower lip made him grit his teeth in pain. The effect is over. The blood god pill could temporarily increase one's cultivation and battle prowess, but the side effects were not small. At this time, the effects of the blood god pill had passed, and the side effects followed, causing him and Bai Ziki to lose the ability to move in an instant. Every inch of their skin was in intense pain, and they were relying on their strong willpower to support themselves from fainting. "Find a hidden place for us," he said with difficulty. At this time, not only did it hurt to speak, but it also hurt to breathe. Bai Chio quickly nodded and looked at Wuxing Crocodile. "Enlarge your monster body and carry them. I'll find a hidden place." "Carry them? You want Lord Crocodile to be your mount?" "No way." Wuxing Crocodile shook his head repeatedly, stretched out a pair of claws, and said, "One for each of us. Just hold them. There is no need to carry them. They're already in a bad condition. You will hurt them if you hold them like that," Bai Chio said furiously. "What's wrong with that? Don't you humans have an ancient saying? Only when you're in pain can you rise above others," Wuxing Crocodile said. Bai Chio glared at it. "Cut the crap. Are you going to carry me or not?" "No. Lord Crocodile would rather die than become someone's mount. If this gets out, how am I going to show my face in the future?" Wuxing Crocodile shook its head repeatedly. Bai Chio was instantly enraged. She glared at Wuxing Crocodile and said, "If you don't carry me, I will use the king's territory to imprison you in the cauldron of divine fire for a year." Lin Tian had given her the cauldron of divine fire when they were in the valley of no return. This time, it was Wuxing Crocodile's turn to glare at her. Wang Yu, who possessed the extreme yin physique, was no fun at all. "You little brat." I hashtag yin. It cursed. It really didn't want to resist a king's territory with the extreme yin physique. It reluctantly put down its demon body and used its demon power to sweep Lin Tian and Bai Ziki onto its back. "Let's make a deal. Just this once. Just this once." So long-winded. Bai Chio glanced at it from the corner of her eyes. She leaped into the air and landed on its back. She carefully protected Lin Tian and Bai Ziki. Wuxing Crocodile. I hashtag yin. Lin Tian's body was in severe pain. At this time, he couldn't even speak. However, he was still blushing with shame at this scene. Miss Bai really liked to suppress people. These two words never left her mouth. This time, she used them to threaten the 5 elements crocodile, and it was successful. Wuxing Crocodile's speed was very fast. With a flap of its 5-color wings, it could cover hundreds of meters in an instant. Soon after, Bai Chio found a very hidden place. After setting up a secret seal, she moved Lin Tian and Bai Ziki inside, and then carefully guarded them with Wuxing Crocodile. Lin Tian and Bai Ziki were in pain all over their bodies. They couldn't move at all. At this time, they simply closed their eyes and waited for their bodies to recover. "How long will it take?" Bai Chio asked. Wuxing Crocodile shrunk its monster body and lay on her head. 3 days. Bai Chio nodded and didn't say anything. She carefully guarded them. At this time, the 4th heaven was in an uproar. Because of the extinction of the insect race, and also because of the spiritual imprint released by Lin Tian, the waves caused by this event were too big. It contained too many things that shocked the world. The insect race, a big race, was destroyed just like that. How many years has it been since such a big event happened? The Stone God Clan, the Bone Clan, the Sorcerer Clan, the Sea Clan, the Dark Shadow Clan, the Ant Clan, and the Blood Wolf Clan. A total of 25 Virtue Realm experts came together to kill that ruthless person. In the end, they were all killed. Isn't he just at the Immortal Ascension realm? How can he have such combat strength? Many cultivators in the 4th heaven were shocked. During this process, Bai Ziki's figure naturally appeared in everyone's field of vision. The Divine Cry Temple was so dazzling that it made the hearts of many older generation powerhouses tremble. A king physique. The legendary Divine Cry Temple, the Thunder God King physique. I've never seen or heard of this person before. To think that such a terrifying young man with a king physique is hiding in this heaven This King Physique is that ruthless person's friend. Everyone was shocked. The shock brought by the King Physique was undoubtedly huge and also breathtaking. The entire cultivation world in the fourth heaven was shocked. King Physique, that was a physique that could be called a king. The cultivation world of this region was shaken because of this. The Rock Divines clan, Bone clan, Shaman clan, Oceanic clan, Dark Shadow clan, Ant clan, and Blood Wolf clan were furious to the extreme. This time, they'd lost a few more Grand Dao experts. Moreover, they'd been killed in such a brutal manner. Their divine sense brands had been struck out by Lin Tian, and coupled with Lin Tian's words about them being as weak as chickens, it caused the great figures of these clans to feel a burning pain on their faces. They'd truly lost all face. It could be imagined that for a long time in the future, these big clans would be the laughingstock of the world. Kill. We must kill him as soon as possible. No, kill them. Kill them. In several big clans, the big figures of their respective big clans almost let out the same roar. Now, not only were these big clans angry, but they also felt a lot of pressure. They were really shocked by Lin Tian, and at the same time, they were also shocked by the appearance of Bai Ziki with the Thunder God King Physique. Lin Tian was a monstrous genius. The previous hatred between these big clans and him was already impossible to resolve. If Lin Tian was allowed to grow up, it would be a disaster for these big clans. From the Divine Sense imprint, the large clans could see that Lin Tian and Bai Ziki had a comrade-like relationship. This meant that they now had another King Physique enemy. Once Bai Ziki's King Physique reached the large success stage, he would be able to uproot the large clans with a wave of his hand. This was a terrifying deterrent force, a potential great danger. The large clans were all afraid. Because of fear, these big clans were now eager to eradicate Lin Tian and Bai Ziki. These two people were too dangerous. At the same time, this storm naturally reached the ears of the barbarian race, causing Wuzhen Old Ancestor and a group of big figures to be slightly shocked. They couldn't speak for a long time. Little friend Lin was worried that our clan would be implicated by the hostility of those big clans, so he deliberately used that divine sense imprint. The second elder of the barbarian race said, "Good man, good man. It's a hero's blessing to have such a friend." The patriarch of the barbarian race said, "It's also a great blessing for our clan to be able to fight side by side with such a man." The great elder of the barbarian race sighed. At this time, all the big figures of this clan were very moved. A huge storm was set off in the fourth heaven. The insect race was completely slaughtered. The Stone God clan and 25 other great Dao realm powerhouses were killed, and a King Physique appeared. All of this shocked all the cultivators, and they couldn't calm down for a long time. Amidst this shock, time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. On this day, Lin Tian and Bai Ziki finally recovered from the side effects of the Blood God pill. Both of them circulated their cultivation methods, and after spending another few hours, their essence, energy, and spirit finally recovered to their previous peak state. Standing up, the two of them were surrounded by divine light, and their bones were crackling. The whooshing crocodile looked at Lin Tian and Bai Ziki, and its mouth was very cheap. "Did you sleep well? Get lost." Lin Tian wanted to kick it. The whooshing crocodile glared at him. "Kid, what's with your attitude? This grandpa crocodile became your mount once for the two of you." Lin Tianyi was speechless. "Is there a need to? It's just a ride. Why are you acting like you've suffered a lot? A great grievance. This is a matter of dignity." The whooshing crocodile glared at him. "Lin Tian, so pretentious. Be careful that no female crocodile will like you in the future." Bai Qiu muttered. The insect race was destroyed, and the small village was avenged. Now, 3 days had passed, and her mood had recovered. The whooshing crocodile glared at Bai Qiu, and its eyes widened even more. For a long time, it didn't say a word. Lin Tian, Bai Ziki. At the same time, the two of them felt that Bai Qiu's words were really fierce. At this time, Bai Qiu looked at Lin Tian and Bai Ziki, sized them up, and asked seriously, "You two, How do you feel now? Are there any problems? Bai Ziki shook his head. We're fine. Lin Tian also shook his head and said, let's leave now and secretly see if the barbarians have found the hero. If they haven't, we'll look for him again. Bai Qiu nodded, and the 3 people and 1 crocodile quickly left this place. The world was still caught in the storm from before. Lin Tian observed in secret and found that some of the Berserker tribe cultivators were still running around in a hurry. He knew that Fanning Xiong had not been found yet, so he immediately began to search in secret. Just like this, 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. In 3 days, the 3 people and 1 crocodile went to many places, but they still couldn't find any trace of Fanning Xiong. On this day, a strange aura suddenly surged from a green mountain. There was no special light or intense tremor, but it caused the drifting clouds in the sky to pause for a moment. That's near the small village, in the direction of the small tomb I built. Chapter 773. A strange aura soared into the sky, carrying with it a very special fluctuation. Lin Tian's expression changed. This was not only because this aura was very special, but also because the direction this aura was coming from was the location of the small graves he had built for the children of the simple village. He remembered very clearly that it was indeed in that direction. What happened there? His expression changed slightly. At this moment, the aura he felt was too strange. Even the divine sword in his sea of consciousness moved. Not only him, but Bai Qiu and Bai Ziki's expressions also changed. They naturally identified the direction this aura was coming from. There, Bai Ziki frowned. He was shocked by this aura. Even the whooshing crocodile, an old monster who had reached the peak of nirvana, was moved. His eyes were full of shock. Let's go. Lin Tian spat out this word. The golden divine light around his body surged. He turned into a stream of light and rushed toward the green mountain. Bai Ziki and Bai Qiu nodded. They took a step forward and followed closely behind Lin Tian. The wind whistled in their ears. The whooshing crocodile lay on top of Lin Tian's head. Lin Tian and the other 2 moved very quickly. Not long after, the green mountain appeared in their vision. The special aura was even stronger, constantly coming from the green mountain. Lin Tian's eyes flashed. He, Bai Qiu, and Bai Ziki stepped into the green mountain in the blink of an eye. They followed the aura all the way to a spacious group of small graves. That is, the moment they arrived, the 3 of them stopped at the same time. Their immortal bodies trembled. On the ordinary green mountain, there were many small graves. A little girl in tattered clothes stood in front of a group of small graves. She did not move at all. Her body was stained with dirt. That special aura was constantly coming from her body. There was a small grave at the little girl's feet. The grave was broken open, and there was nothing inside. The tombstone in front of the small grave was still intact. It was also stained with dust. There were 3 words on it. Little AI, AI. Xiao. Xiao AI. Lin Tian and Bai Qiu's expressions changed at the same time, and they were slightly shocked again. They were all too familiar with the little girl's back. Bai Ziki was moved. Naturally, he recognized the little girl. Little AI? No, isn't it already? Whooshing crocodile's eyes widened. It had heard Lin Tian mention this little girl before. She was clearly dead. In front of him, the little girl seemed to have heard a familiar voice and slowly turned around. At this time, the little girl's once adorable goat horn braids were no longer there. Her hair was loose, and there was a sparkling jade hanging on her chest. Her cheeks were still young and tender, but her pupils were blood red. On her forehead, between her eyebrows, there was an eye-catching lotus-shaped mark. Staring at the 3 people and the crocodile, the little girl's young and tender face was somewhat numb. Her gaze finally fell on Lin Tian and Bai Qiu. Her small body trembled uncontrollably, and 2 streams of blood slowly flowed down her cheeks. Beautiful big sister. Big brother. The little girl's current appearance was somewhat strange, but she clearly recognized Lin Tian and Bai Qiu. She was choking with sobs. Lin Tianyi trembled. He felt as if something had struck his chest. The little girl's clothes were tattered, and her pupils were blood red. Tears of blood flowed down her cheeks. This scene was too heart-wrenching. It was even more painful than when he had watched the little girl die. Xiao AI. It's Xiao AI. Bai Qiu's tears immediately flowed down. She was surprised and happy, and immediately rushed toward the little girl. Bai Ziki raised his hand and pulled her back. "Big brother, what are you doing? Let go of me," Bai Qiu said anxiously. Bai Ziki frowned and said, "This isn't normal." He had seen the little girl before, so he naturally knew that the little girl was Xiao AI. However, the little girl's current situation was too strange. She was clearly dead, but she had stood up from the grave. Moreover, her blood-red pupils were somewhat terrifying, and the lotus-like mark between her brows was even more shocking. Bai Qiu struggled. "What are you talking about?" "It's her. It's Xiao AI. It's Xiao AI. Let go of me. Let go." At this moment, Lin Tian took a step forward and strode over. Bai Ziki's frown deepened when he saw this. In the end, he let go of Bai Qiu. Instantly, Bai Qiu rushed over like Lin Tianyi and arrived beside the little girl in the blink of an eye. "Xiao AI. It's really Xiao AI." When she first learned that Xiao AI had died, she was extremely sad. Now that she saw Xiao AI standing before her again, even though it was a little strange, she was still pleasantly surprised. This was the feeling of regaining something she had lost. "Xiao AI." At the side, Lin Tian also called out in a soft voice. The little girl's body was very thin, and her clothes were tattered. When she saw Lin Tian and Bai Qiu appear beside her, more tears of blood flowed down her cheeks. She was like a child who had been wandering for a long time, seeing her family after a long time. Those who heard her would be sad, and those who heard her would cry. Her gaze fell on Lin Tian. "Big brother, Grandpa. Grandpa is gone. Everyone is gone." Lin Tianji felt a pain in his heart, and he could not say a word. The little girl tilted her head and looked at the small grave behind her. Her thin body trembled, and tears of blood flowed down her cheeks. She still had the memories of the past. She remembered the scene of her grandfather being killed by the insectoids, the scene of her and the other villagers being captured, the scene of her being bitten by the insectoid larvae, and the scene of Lin Tian coming to save her. "Everyone is gone." Xiao AI woke up. "Xiao AI is the only one left," the little girl sobbed. A 5-year-old girl, saying such words with tears of blood flowing down her cheeks, was even more heartbreaking. Even someone as strong as Lin Tian felt like he was about to cry. Bai Qiu squatted down and hugged the little girl in her arms. "Don't be afraid, Xiao AI. We're still here." The little girl's small body trembled, and she cried in Bai Qiu's arms. She was heartbroken. Hearing the little girl's cries, Lin Tian clenched his fists. He really wanted to drag out those zergs and kill them all again. At this moment, even Bai Ziki, who was standing at the side, took a deep breath. Clearly, he was also deeply moved. After some time, Bai Qiu hugged the little girl and comforted her. Finally, the little girl stopped crying. "You still have us. Xiao AI will follow us from now on. Big sister will take good care of you," Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian also comforted her. During this process, he had carefully scanned the little girl with his divine sense. He found that although the little girl's appearance was a little strange, there was indeed life in her body. Although it was very weak, it was there. This meant that the little girl had come back to life. Now, she was a living person. This was an incomparably pleasant surprise. It was a miracle. At this time, he didn't think about why Xiao AI, who was clearly dead, would have life again. He didn't think about why the little girl would have such a strange appearance. He didn't even think about why the little girl would emit such a special aura that made people tremble. "Xiao, xiao, 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 xiao." Whooshing crocodile laid on Lin Tian's head. He had been staring at the lotus mark on Xiao AI's forehead ever since he came here. At this time, he seemed to have finally noticed something. His eyes widened, and he almost fell off Lin Tian's head. He extended a claw and pointed at the lotus mark on Xiao AI's forehead. His claw trembled slightly. Look at that thing. That is, Lin Tian looked at where Whooshing Crocodile was pointing. Naturally, he had already noticed the mark on the little girl's forehead. This imprint was too strange. The strange aura that was emitted from my daughter's body came from this lotus-like imprint. He lowered his voice and asked Whooshing Crocodile seriously, "What is this? Do you know?" Whooshing Crocodile's claw was trembling. Its voice was also trembling. Its eyes were wide open. It's that. Lin Tianyi grabbed it off his head. "Why are you trembling? What the hell is this mark?" I hashtag yin. Whooshing Crocodile was so angry that it kept swearing. "Can't you see that your Lord Crocodile is shocked?" I hashtag yin. "Can you give your Lord Crocodile some time to breathe?" I hashtag yin. Lin Tian let go of it and waited quietly. At the same time, Bai Qiu and Bai Ziki also looked at it. Whooshing Crocodile took a dozen deep breaths. When Lin Tian couldn't help but want to beat it, it finally opened its mouth. It stared at the lotus mark on Xiao Ai's forehead and said, "Lord Crocodile has seen records of this mark in the tomb of an old guy in the Chaos Realm. This is," it said word by word, "seal of life and death." Seal of life and death. Lin Tian frowned. Bai Qiu and Bai Ziki were also puzzled. Obviously, they didn't know what Whooshing Crocodile's seal of life and death was. A living creature goes from life to death. The body remains immortal and then goes from death to life. This process has a very small chance of producing such a mark. It's called the seal of life and death. Whooshing Crocodile stared at the lotus mark on Xiao Ai's forehead and couldn't help but swallow hard. According to the records of the seal of life and death that Lord Crocodile saw in the tomb, this thing has only appeared 3 times in history because it's too rare. You should know that once a living creature dies, it's generally impossible to come back to life. Even if it can miraculously come back to life from death, the probability of condensing the seal of life and death in this process is less than 1 in a billion. Staring at the 5-year-old little AI, the 5-element crocodile's eyes widened as if it had seen a ghost. This little girl, not only did she come back from death, she actually managed to condense such an ancient seal. This is simply from life to death, from death to life, the seal of life and death. Lin Tian muttered to himself. At this time, he still didn't think about how the little girl could come back to life with a breath of life after death. After a pause, he looked at Whooshing Crocodile and continued to ask, "What's so special about this seal of life and death? Are there any negative effects?" Chapter 774. Hearing Whooshing Crocodile's words, Lin Tian was shocked. Bai Qiu and Bai Ziki were also shocked. Even a Chaos Realm expert risked his life to condense this thing? Whooshing Crocodile said, "The seal of life and death is a treasure seal formed by the exchange of life and death. This thing is a kind of heaven-defying Tao fruit. The benefits are too great." As he said that, his eyes were as bright as the sun. A seal of life and death represents a lifespan of 100,000 years. 100,000 years! Lin Tian and the other 2 were shocked. You mean?" "Yes." The 5 elements crocodile nodded and took a deep breath before speaking again. "This little girl, even if she doesn't do any cultivation in the future, doesn't eat anything, and lives a simple life, she can at least live for 100,000 years. Lin Tian and the other 2 were shocked. 100,000 years? That was the lifespan of a Chaos Realm expert. It's far more than that. This is only the foundation. The benefits of the seal of life and death are unimaginable. Simply put, this thing is countless times more precious than the strongest heavenly treasure. It's a true heaven-defying divine seal." Whooshing Crocodile said. Lin Tian and the other 2 were stunned. Even though they had guessed that the seal of life and death was not simple after hearing Whooshing Crocodile's words, they did not expect it to be so heaven-defying. It was too shocking. A seal of life and death was equivalent to 100,000 years of lifespan. And this was only the most basic benefit of this kind of treasure seal. At this time, even a man as calm as Bai Ziki was shocked. His eyes kept flashing. The 3's gazes fell on the little girl. This little girl was a true child prodigy. The little girl stopped crying, but she was still very sad. Her eyes were blood red. and the seal of life and death on her forehead was very obvious. She grabbed by Chio's sleeve. Lin Tian looked at Wuxing Crocodile and asked, I scanned her with my divine sense, and there is indeed a breath of life in her body. But what's with her appearance now? It's normal. The seal of life and death has just been formed. She has just escaped from death, so she has more the inside. After a while, the yang energy that represents life will become stronger and merge with the yin energy in her body to form a perfect balance. Then, her pupils will return to normal, and the seal of life and death on her forehead will automatically hide in her body. No one will be able to see it, Wuxing Crocodile said. Hearing Wuxing Crocodile's words, Lin Tian immediately felt relieved. The little girl stuck close to Bai Chio. Occasionally, she would tilt her head to look at the tombs behind her. Her body twitched slightly, and then she would bury her head in Bai Chio's arms and cry silently. Coming back from the dead, the little girl had transcended the mortal world. However, she was still a child in the end. Her only family and familiar friends were no longer around. It was difficult for her to recover from her grief quickly, and this was also very normal. Not to mention a child. Even an adult would be the same. How did she come back to life? Lin Tian whispered to himself. Looking at little AI, he began to think about this question at this time. Back then, he saw the little girl die in front of his eyes. Her breath of life was completely cut off. But now, the little girl miraculously came back to life. Wuxing Crocodile came to this place. From the moment it saw the little girl, it had been looking at the little girl with all kinds of surprise and doubts in its eyes. At this time, its gaze suddenly fell on the jade on the little girl's chest. Suddenly it was moved. It clearly felt the same breath as Bai Chio on it. It contained the Tai Yin wave. There was a strange light in its eyes. It looked at Lin Tian and said, Kid, use your dragon burial scripture to see if there is anything special in this place. Special? This is just an ordinary green mountain. Lin Tian frowned. What nonsense are you talking about? Don't rely on your eyes and feelings for everything. Lord Crocodile wants you to look. Don't be long-winded. Wuxing Crocodile glared at Lin Tian. Lin Tian didn't say anything else. The dragon burial scripture operated. Strands of dragon patterns spread down from the soles of his feet. At the same time, they spread out in all directions to explore this green mountain. Just like that, dozens of breaths passed in a flash. After dozens of breaths, he explored the surroundings with dragon patterns but didn't find anything special. It's just an ordinary. Wait. Suddenly, his expression changed slightly. As the dragon burial scripture operated faster, the dragon patterns on the soles of his feet suddenly jumped on their own and spread deeper into the underground space. It extended all the way to dozens of miles below. Suddenly, a dazzling halo lay there quietly. This halo happened to be under little AI's small grave. Lin Tian was moved. He opened a path with dragon patterns and took it out after a while. The body of the halo was a stone about 5 inches in diameter. It was pure white and emitted a light like the sun. It was intertwined with dense yang energy, causing the temperature of the space to suddenly rise by more than 10 degrees. Origin Sunstone. Lin Tian and the other two were shocked. This stone was the Origin Sunstone. It wasn't small and was priceless. Lin Tian was shocked. He didn't expect that a piece of Origin Sunstone would be born in this place dozens of miles below. Bai Chio and Bai Ziki were also surprised. The siblings found a piece of Taiyin Origin Stone in the small village, and there was a piece of Origin Sunstone in the mountains near the village. Both of them were surprised. Wuxing Crocodile nodded at this moment. Understood. It stretched out its claws and pointed at the precious jade on the little girl's chest. Grandpa Crocodile remembers that you mentioned that this precious jade was given by the Bai family's daughter. It was the precious jade that the Bai family's daughter had worn for more than 10 years. After more than 10 years, the jade had already been filled with the Taiyin origin aura of the Bai family's daughter. Now, this precious jade is worn by this little girl, and it resonates with the Origin Sunstone directly below the ground. The two are extreme yin and extreme yang. After mixing with each other, They evolved into vitality, giving this little girl a chance to be reborn. Lin Tian and the other two were moved. Their eyes flashed. Taiyin and Taiyang can indeed evolve into vitality. Bai Ziki said, Yin and Yang were the mother of all things. Although it was difficult to combine the two to evolve into vitality, it was completely possible. Bai Qiu was surprised and pleasantly surprised. At this moment, he was extremely glad that he had given this precious jade to little AI. This is heaven's will. Wuxing Crocodile kept staring at the little girl. Its surprised expression had disappeared. At this moment, its eyes were full of doubts. However, this is really strange. It's too unusual. Due to the fusion of the Taiyin aura and the origin sunstone, she came back from the dead. Grandpa Crocodile can understand this. However, how could she condense something like the seal of life and death in this process? You should know that in the past, some old guys in the chaotic realm made all kinds of strict arrangements, but they couldn't condense such a divine seal. More than 90% of them even destroyed their bodies and souls. However, such an ordinary little girl who has never cultivated before actually condensed the seal of life and death in the process of alternating between life and death. Logically speaking, this is completely impossible. The probability should be 100 million to 0. This is hard to understand. It's incomprehensible. Bai Qiu said, is it because little AI has amazing talent and potential? No, this has nothing to do with talent and potential. It also has nothing to do with your Taiyin aura and the origin sunstone. Wuxing Crocodile shook its head and said with certainty, there must be other foreign objects playing a key role in this. But what is it? There doesn't seem to be any foreign objects in this place. At this moment, Wuxing Crocodile seemed to be very serious. It was seriously thinking and scanning the surroundings with its tyrannical divine sense. However, in the end, it still couldn't find the key foreign object that it mentioned. It couldn't understand it no matter how hard it thought. It kept howling. This is too strange. It's too unreasonable. How could such a thing happen? An ordinary little girl actually condensed the seal of life and death on her own? If those failed chaotic realm experts knew about this, they would be so angry that they would jump out of their coffins. Bai Qiu ignored it and hugged little AI. Bai Ziki didn't say anything and stood quietly by the side. Only Lin Tian was moved at this moment. He thought of something. Could it be? He muttered in his heart. Back then, in order to save little AI, he had transferred some of his reincarnation origin to the little girl. The foreign object that Wuxing Crocodile mentioned. Could it be the reincarnation origin that he transferred to the little girl? Wuxing Crocodile saw Lin Tian in a daze and asked, Brat, what did you think of? Nothing. Lin Tian shook his head. Wuxing Crocodile looked at him suspiciously, but it didn't say anything. It began to feel conflicted again and muttered to itself, Impossible. How could this be? How could those failed chaotic realm experts accept this? Bai Qiu comforted little AI by the side while Lin Tian pondered. That's right. We have to leave this place quickly. We have to find a hidden place to set up a seal and hide this little girl. Wuxing Crocodile suddenly thought of something and said, when the seal of life and death is formed, its aura can't be concealed and will spread out bit by bit. If there are experts in this heaven who know about the existence of the seal of life and death, they will definitely fight for it at all costs. Lin Tian and the other two were moved. They nodded. Dong! At this moment, the firmament suddenly trembled. A mass of black light appeared in the northern sky. Within it was a pair of deep and emotionless eyes that seemed to have seen through the ups and downs of the world. They stared straight at the seal of life and death between little AI's eyebrows. The three people and one crocodile trembled together and felt a chill run down their backs. This is the suppression of an emperor. Wuxing Crocodile trembled. A chaotic realm expert had forced them here. Hong! Almost at the same time, the southern sky collapsed. A tall figure strode over. Every step he took caused the firmament to tremble. This figure was surrounded by a hazy and tyrannical divine light. Even a powerful divine sense couldn't see through it. Only a pair of cold eyes could be seen. There wasn't the slightest fluctuation of human emotions in them. After this, the surroundings trembled. A figure also walked over, similarly enveloped in hazy light. Everywhere he passed, all creatures fell silent. The might of an emperor blanketed the sky and covered the earth, as if an ancient deity was inspecting the world. Chapter 775. The expressions of the three people and the crocodile changed at the same time. All of them could not help but tremble. At this moment, 3 auras pressed down. 3 pairs of eyes stared at them, emitting the powerful auras of chaotic emperors, causing them to tremble involuntarily. Three emperors? How could this be? Whooshing Crocodile was horrified. 3 auras appeared, and 3 pairs of eyes swept across the sky. In the blink of an eye, they crossed over to this place. In an instant, the void in all directions was directly frozen. The 3 people and the crocodile could not escape even if they wanted to. There was no way to retreat at all. The 3 pairs of eyes were frighteningly deep. At the same time, they stared at the seal of life and death between little AI's eyebrows. Astonishing divine light burst out from their eyes. Buzz! In the next moment, almost at the same time, the 3 people moved at the same time. They raised their hands and grabbed at little AI. Obviously, they wanted to seize the seal of life and death. Lin Tian and the others were shocked. Facing the 3 big hands, they wanted to do something, but they could not even gather their divine power. They could only watch as the 3 big hands pressed down on them. Chi! 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 The 3 chaotic emperors each took a side and raised their hands to grab little AI. At the same time, they were fighting with each other. All kinds of divine light and laws surged, causing the void to be annihilated inch by inch. Because of their conflict, this place was engulfed in waves of hurricanes that swept past, uprooting the green trees and shattering the earth. The small tombs that Lin Tian built for the villagers were completely destroyed in the blink of an eye. The tombstones shattered, and the bones of the villagers were thrown out, also crumbling into ashes bit by bit. Grandpa! Little AI looked at the direction of the small tombs and cried. Her close relatives, elders, and friends were all dead, and she was the only one left. Now, even the tombstones were blown to pieces. Lin Tian was also angry, but at this time, he could do nothing. He could only watch the 3 big hands press down. At this time, he could not even move his fingers. The 3 emperors' auras suppressed and imprisoned everything. Ka! The void distorted, the 3 large hands helping each other, finally completely crushing over. Little AI looked in the direction of the tombs and cried loudly. It was unknown whether it was because she was very emotional, but the seal of life and death between her brows suddenly emitted a radiance. It spread out in a semicircle and immediately shook off the 3 big hands that were pressing down from the sky. At the same time, Lin Tian and the others felt that they could move again. The space around them also returned to its original state. The 3 people and the crocodile were shocked at the same time. This is the seal of life and death? The huge hands of the 3 primal chaos experts that were imbued with great Tao laws were repelled by a single cry from little AI. Go! Lin Tian Dao. The space around them had already returned to normal. How could the 3 people and 1 crocodile dare to stay any longer? They immediately took little AI and fled. In the sky, 3 pairs of eyes were cold and emotionless. A ray of dim light flashed across all of them. Then, waves of resplendent light appeared. In the blink of an eye, 3 waves of emperors' might descended, sealing Lin Tian and the others who had fled several thousand feet away. Boom! The 3 huge hands pressed down again, still aiming for little AI. At the same time, they also enveloped the 3 people and the crocodile, causing them to feel intense pain. This time, the light of the seal of life and death was no longer effective. The 3 huge hands ignored everything. Nothing could stop them. Oh my God! The scales on the whooshing crocodile's body stood on end. Damn it! Lin Tian was anxious. He frantically tried to communicate with the divine sword in his sea of consciousness. Although he did not have much hope and did not think that he would be able to summon the divine sword at this time, he could only do so. Only by summoning the divine sword would he be able to barely resist. In the next moment, to his surprise and delight, the divine sword seemed to have sensed the danger he was in and actually moved. Strands of divine light streaked out. Lin Tianyi trembled. He felt a boundless force surging up, giving him the feeling that it could split the sky and shatter the earth. He did not hesitate and directly attacked, smashing a fist towards the three huge hands pressing down from the sky. Boom! A resplendent seven-colored radiance tore through the sky and shattered all things. It carried an incomparably sharp aura, and like the radiance of the seal of life and death, it blasted away the three giant hands of the three Emperor Realm experts. Once again, the spatial seal was broken. Bai Ziqi and Bai Qiu were shocked. Lin Tian, at this time, actually blasted away the three huge hands of the chaotic world with a single punch. It's the divine light from that time. Bai Qiu was shocked. Back in the sword tomb of the second heaven, she had seen Lin Tian display this kind of seven-colored divine light. It was extremely powerful, and now she saw it again. It was just as powerful as that time. This kid really has a super divine artifact in his body. Whooshing Crocodile had also seen the power of the seven-colored divine light displayed by Lin Tian, and because of it, its cultivation base had also fallen. At this time, its eyes lit up, and a glimmer of hope appeared in its heart. However, this glimmer of hope disappeared in an instant. It cried miserably, no, it can't really block them. Even if it's a heavenly divine artifact, it can't block a real chaotic world expert. In the sky, the three emperors' eyes once again shone with resplendent light, staring at Lin Tian at the same time. The three of them didn't utter a single word as they continued to fight. The three large hands pressed down once again, and they weren't just grabbing towards little AI, they were grabbing towards Lin Tian as well. Evidently, the rainbow radiance that Lin Tian unleashed was like the seal of life and death, attracting the attention of the three. Lin Tian swung the divine sword and released the seven-colored divine light, blasting towards the sky, shattering everything and stopping the three huge hands from pressing down. However, at this time, the result was just as Whooshing Crocodile had said. He could not block the three huge hands at all, and he vomited blood due to the impact. Lin Tian, Bai Qiu was anxious. With a rumble, the sky trembled. The three huge hands ignored everything and pressed down majestically, covering the sky and the sun. It's over, it's over, it's over. It's really over this time. Whooshing Crocodile was on the verge of tears. Emperors were too terrifying. The three huge hands pressed down and fought with each other, truly confining the space. The light of the seal of life and death and the divine sword were useless and could not block them. In the end, Lin Tian was too weak, and little AI was just an ordinary child. Even if she had a peerless divine artifact, she could not compete with a chaotic world expert. The space collapsed, and time and space trembled. Everything was confined. Lin Tian activated the seven-colored divine light to resist, but it was useless. He was extremely anxious and felt a sense of despair. Buzz! In the sky, the three figures were all shrouded in divine light, and their faces could not be seen clearly. Only three pairs of deep and emotionless eyes could be seen. Only the powerful aura of the emperors intertwined in the surroundings. Three huge hands appeared above the group in the blink of an eye. Three great Dao laws surged and grabbed towards Lin Tian and little AI. The three pairs of eyes were all shining with a dim light. Almost at the same time, in the first heaven, in the dark forest outside Fengjian City, a pair of eyes suddenly opened. Stars intertwined in them, and the sun and moon rose and fell. Accompanied by a ray of light, everything was torn apart in an instant, including the barrier of the heaven. Pooh! In the fourth heaven, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the void, and the three huge hands that pressed towards Lin Tian and the others exploded at the same time. The void crack was thousands of feet long, and space turbulence intertwined. A little girl of 11 or 12 years old stepped out from it. She was dressed in a white dress, and her soft black hair naturally fell to her waist. Like the noblest fairy in the world, she stood at the top of the sky and looked at the three chaotic world experts indifferently. She said in an extremely cold voice, do you want to die? Boom! An unparalleled divine power turned into a hurricane, forcing the three chaotic world experts to retreat. The light fog around their bodies was completely dispersed. At this moment, as far as the eye could see, the people in the north wore imperial crowns, the people in the south had flames intertwined around their bodies, and the people in the west wore Taoist robes. Their bodies were intertwined with grand auras like mountains and galaxies. The three primal chaos experts stared at the little girl who walked out from the void crack. Their eyes were filled with Tao light. Bai Qiu and Bai Ziqi's expressions changed. Lin Tian stared at the little girl in the sky with surprise and joy. Little Z. He was very excited. The girl he had met in the dark forest was finally able to see her up close again. The little girl's black hair fluttered in the wind as she glanced at the seal of life and death on little AI's forehead. Then she shifted her gaze to Lin Tian, and a smile bloomed on her cold little face. Demon Emperor, Violet Fairy, a cold voice echoed. Among the three primal chaos experts, the one wearing the imperial crown spoke with eyes that were like blades. Lin Tianyi was startled and shocked. Little Z was the demon race's empress? In the sky, the Violet Fairy looked at Lin Tian with a crafty smile. She completely ignored everyone here. She is a demon emperor? She and him? Bai Qiu, Bai Ziqi, and Wuxing Crocodile could clearly see that the Violet Fairy was looking at Lin Tian. That smile was obviously not ordinary, and it shocked the trio. It was obvious that the Violet Fairy and Lin Tian knew each other and had a good relationship. That's right. That brat seemed to be calling her Demon Emperor. Little Z? Wuxing Crocodile suddenly widened his eyes. The Violet Fairy was barefooted as she looked at Lin Tian with a crafty smile, but she didn't say anything. She looked at the blood that was flowing out from Lin Tian's mouth. After a moment, she turned her head again and looked at the three primal chaos emperors. Anyone who harms him will have to pay the price. Looking at the three primal chaos emperors, the smile on the Violet Fairy's face disappeared. She became cold again with a kind of holiness and dignity. Boom! Absolute demonic prowess engulfed the world. The sky couldn't stop shaking, and the entire heaven region was shaking. I don't understand what you were saying. You want to seize the seal of life and death too? In the south, the primal chaos expert who was surrounded by flames spoke coldly. The Violet Fairy's eyes were cold. At this moment, she was just like an arrogant princess. Her black hair danced behind her back as a divine radiance rushed out. It seemed to ignore the distance of space and appeared in front of this primal chaos expert in the blink of an eye. This primal chaos expert was startled. He quickly reacted and raised a law light screen in front of him. Ka! A crisp sound rang out, and the law light screen that this person had erected was instantly shattered. PFFF. The divine radiance didn't decrease in momentum and crushed this primal chaos expert on the spot. Chapter 776. The blood was glaring as it splattered in the void, causing Lin Tian and the others to change their expressions. A primal chaos realm emperor expert was torn apart in the blink of an eye. So powerful. Lin Tian was astonished. Even though he had guessed that the Violet Fairy was powerful, he didn't expect her to be this powerful. Just one divine light was enough to shatter the primal chaos expert who was covered in flames. Boom! The flames burned the void. The shattered primal chaos expert reformed his fleshly body, and his eyes were filled with flames. Demonic Beast Emperor. This primal chaos expert's voice was cold, but his aura didn't drop. The primal chaos expert in the north and the primal chaos expert in the west didn't say anything. Their expressions were cold. The three of them came here to fight for the seal of life and death. They were already considered enemies. At this moment, the cold voice sounded again. You guys have a share too. The Violet Fairy ignored Emperor Yin Meng temporarily and stared at the Primal Chaos Expert and the Primal Chaos Expert. She slashed out with two divine lights, tearing the void apart, and arrived before the two in an instant. The two Primal Chaos Experts attacked at the same time, striking out thousands of magic powers. However, they still couldn't block the divine lights. Their magic powers crumbled, and they were forced to retreat. Their Tao bodies exploded at the same time. Boom! Blood and flesh intertwined as the two instantly regenerated their Tao bodies. They stared coldly at the Violet Fairy with emotionless eyes. Great Void God slaying Tao. Very powerful indeed, the Primal Chaos Expert said coldly. The surroundings were filled with Tao radiance. When this Primal Chaos Expert spoke, it was like a divine bell ringing, causing intense pain in the eardrums. Under such an aura, Lin Tian and the others couldn't even circulate their divine power. However, they were shocked by the Violet Fairy's strength. Those three divine lights were too stunning. They actually shattered three Primal Chaos Realm Emperors in the sky. Great Void God slaying Tao, what is that? Lin Tian asked Whooshing Crocodile. Whooshing Crocodile had lived for a long time and knew many things. He swallowed his saliva and said, the demonic beast emperor's famous divine technique, the god-slaying light. All Taos will retreat. It is said to be able to slay even gods. At this moment, a cold snort rang out, equally cold. In the sky, the Taoist-robed emperor stared at the Violet Fairy with cold eyes. Violet Fairy, do you want to be enemies with all of us? The three great emperors stared at the Violet Fairy at the same time. Tao lights interweaved around their bodies, and their auras were extremely powerful. Under the three presences, the space was obliterated inch by inch. Everything fell silent. The entire world fell silent. The might of an emperor was extremely terrifying. Lin Tian's expression changed slightly as he began to worry. The Violet Elves were powerful, but none of the three in the sky were weak. If these three Primal Chaos Experts were to attack at the same time, could the Violet Fairy win? Where did these three people come from? He asked Whooshing Crocodile, wanting to know who the three Primal Chaos Emperors were. Whooshing Crocodile stared at the three Primal Chaos Emperors and shook his head after a while. I don't know. I have no impression of him. You don't know? Lin Tian frowned. Do you think Lord Crocodile is omniscient? I know everything? Whooshing Crocodile said angrily. At the top of the sky, the Violet Fairy's black hair fluttered behind her back as though she was dispelling Lin Tian's doubts. She looked at the Taoist-robed emperor in the west. Taoist Pu Yuan, born with Yin Eye, snatched the primordial Yin of young girls to cultivate. He was once hunted by the entire cultivation world and survived like a rat on the street. With his Yin Eye, he stepped into the primal chaos realm and annihilated several holy lands' inheritances that had once suppressed him. Taoist Pu Yuan's eyes were cold. Yin lights interweaved in his eyes, and a chill was contained within. Lin Tian and the others' expressions changed. This person had once snatched the primordial Yin of young girls to cultivate. This was simply too insidious. The Violet Fairy tilted her head and looked at the crowned emperor, Grand Emperor Luo Tsong. When his lifespan was about to dry up, he massacred tens of thousands of living beings and transformed their essence into his own lifespan. After escaping death, he disappeared. Who would have thought that he was secretly hiding in the fourth heaven? The Violet Fairy's voice was calm. She looked at the primal chaos emperors who were covered in flames. The flame demon was a magma rock that swallowed the essence of heaven and earth. Back then, he was accepted as a disciple by a human expert. Countless years later, when the human expert who taught him was heavily injured, he snatched the Tao fruit of his body and cultivated the pure demon flame. With his strength, he defeated tens of thousands of experts and reached the Emperor realm. Lin Tian and the others were moved. These three people were really bad people. The three emperors' eyes were like cold lightning. They stared at the Violet Fairy coldly. You know quite a lot. If I don't know much, how can I be an emperor? The Violet Fairy said. The three emperors' eyes became even colder. Tao lights interweaved in their eyes like 6 black holes. You want to start a battle between emperors by telling us our origins? Emperor Luo Tsang said coldly. The three emperors stared at the Violet Fairy. Killing lights interweaved around their bodies. At this moment, it was as if they had pulled up a common front. Battle between emperors? The Violet Fairy looked at the three emperors. The three of you. Each of you used a secret technique to suppress your own body in the fourth heaven. You used a secret technique to delay the elapse of your lifespan. But now that you have discovered the aura of the seal of life and death, all of you jumped out to fight for it. Are you worthy of mentioning the 3 words battle between emperors to me? Hearing this, Lin Tian and the others were shocked. These 3 old things, so their lifespan is about to dry up. Whooshing crocodile stared. In the sky, Emperor Luo Tsang and the other 2 emperors' eyes were even colder. 3 chills interweaved in all directions. You are not worthy of me taking action. However, you have injured him, so you all have to pay the price. The Violet Fairy's voice became cold again. Divine light surged around her like divine swords. I will bury all of you here. Clang! Divine light rang, and tens of thousands of Daos surged. The wind and clouds in the sky suddenly changed, and the clouds in the sky all dispersed. Arrogant, Emperor Luo Tsang said coldly. 36 light wings rushed out from behind him. Then, with a light flap, 36 destructive chains were rolled up. All kinds of Daos interweaved on them, and they pressed forward majestically, falling towards the Violet Fairy. This was a kind of momentum. In an instant, the whole world lost its color. The Violet Fairy raised her hand. Beside her, the god slaying light trembled. In an instant, it cut through the 36 chains and slashed towards Emperor Luo Tsang. You want to kill the 3 of us? Who do you think you are? Another cold voice sounded. The pupils of the flame demon seemed to be constructed of flames. With a flash of her eyes, dense balls of flames appeared in the sky, burning the space and distorting the great Tao. Kill her and share her emperor qi equally. Taoist Pu Yuan stepped forward. For a moment, the 3 emperors attacked at the same time. An even more tyrannical attack interweaved. The world seemed to be about to shatter, and chaos interweaved. The scene was terrifying. Lin Tian and the others trembled. They were not attacked, but at this moment they could not even stand steadily. The 3 emperors used their divine techniques at the same time, and the world seemed to be about to be destroyed. Rumble! The sky was filled with killing lights in all directions. They were all evolved from the great Tao. Every ray could easily kill a Nirvana pinnacle powerhouse, and the great Tao rumbled. The Violet Fairy stood alone in the sky. Her black hair danced behind her back. Facing the terrifying attacks of the 3 emperors, she only made one move. She stretched out her right hand and pressed down gently across the void. Chi! 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 The great void god-slaying light seemed to have slashed through eternity. In an instant, it annihilated everything and shattered all the laws of divine techniques. Emperor Luo Tsang and the other 2 trembled and coughed up blood. They were directly pressed down from the sky. The Violet Fairy looked down at the 3 of them with an indifferent gaze. With a flip of her right hand, it was as if the universe was pressing down. The god-slaying light turned into a sea of killing, cutting off all eternity. The 3 emperors' expressions changed. At this moment, they all felt their hearts tremble. Endless flames are formed by me. Incinerate all Daos. The flame demon roared. Luo Ming, Luo Sheng, Luo Huang. Emperor Luo Tsang shouted. At the same time, Taoist Pu Yuan also displayed a great divine technique. He faced the god-slaying light together with the flame demon and Emperor Luo Tsang. In an instant, the 3 immortal killing forces shook. The power of divine techniques flooded all directions. The Violet Fairy looked down indifferently and silently. With a buzzing sound, The god-slaying light that descended became even more resplendent. It annihilated all the divine techniques of the three emperors. The ground instantly collapsed. The three emperors coughed up blood again and were forcefully pressed into the ground. The three of them and the crocodile were stunned. Their hearts trembled. So powerful. Bai Qiu shrunk his neck. She stood alone in the sky and destroyed the divine techniques of the three emperors with a raise of her hand, causing them to fall into the ground. How powerful was she? Boom! The ground churned and shattered. Three different divine radiances rushed up. Emperor Luo Tsang and the others stepped out. They were clearly in a sorry state. Their eyes became even colder. Kill! Emperor Luo Tsang shouted. He displayed his divine technique again. His emperor body turned into boundless divine light, enveloping the entire heaven and earth. Calamity of 1,000 generations, calamity of 10,000 generations, the fall of the heavenly Tao. It had to be said that the technique Grand Emperor Luo Tsang was currently displaying was extremely powerful. It was like the Milky Way was descending from the cosmos and pressing down on the entire world. Dense rays of light surged as if they were about to split the world apart. At the same time, Yin Mo and Taoist Pu Yuan also made their moves. They displayed their emperor techniques and pressed down on the Violet Fairy. At their level, they didn't care about the so-called light and fairness of the secular world. Destroying the enemy was the only thing that mattered. Boom! Even more shocking killing radiances interweaved. It was mighty and intimidating. The Violet Fairy's action was simple. She only raised her hand. This time, her right hand formed a sword and slashed down. Pooh! Waves of blood swept out. The divine radiance that filled the sky was annihilated. Emperor Luo Tsang's body reappeared, but his head flew out. The emperor roared. His head flew back and wanted to reassemble. However, the Violet Fairy obviously didn't want to give him the chance. She waved her right hand. Instantly, dense god-slaying light surged down from all directions, directly shattering the head. At the same time, the emperor's body was also obliterated into a bloody mist. Moreover, on the other side, the dense god-slaying light pressed down like a river of time, piercing through Yin Mo and Taoist Pu Yuan. Ah! Emperor Luo Tsang roared. Divine radiance flashed and reformed his emperor body. All his black hair stood on end. Yin Mo and Taoist Pu Yuan also quickly repaired their emperor bodies. Their eyes became even colder and their killing intent thickened. You guys can't do it? The Violet Fairy was very calm. Chapter 777. The three of you are no good. These 4 words were very calm and did not carry an overbearing tone. Yet it shocked everyone. So formidable! Bai Qiu's eyes lit up. As a woman herself, it was only natural for her to worship the Violet Fairy when she saw how powerful she was. Lin Tian was even more astonished. Too powerful, far more powerful than what he had imagined. Known as the most dazzling emperor in the history of the fiend race, once the god-slaying light is unleashed, all living things wither. Wuxing Crocodile swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The fiend race was huge, and there were many fiends. In terms of numbers, they were second only to the human race. As such, in the history of cultivation, the fiend race naturally had more than one emperor. Furthermore, in the history of emperors, the Violet Fairy was the most talented. Sky Emperor Luo Tsang and the other 2 didn't look too good. They turned gloomy. They were chaotic realm emperors, but now the Violet Fairy was facing the 3 of them at the same time, and she actually described it as not enough. You are too complacent, Taoist Pu Yuan coldly said. You have to know that the 3 of us have yet to display our peak strength. The 3 of them had used secret techniques to suppress their qi and blood undulations, slowing down their decline and allowing them to live longer. It was also because of this that they were unable to display their peak strength. So what? The Violet Fairy looked at the 3 of them. So what if you use your full strength? It will still be no good. Her words were very calm and carried a sense of indifference. Such words undoubtedly caused the three of them to become gloomy. That arrogant tone caused their eyes to turn even colder. "You are too arrogant," Emperor Luo Tsang said. The Violet Fairy looked down at the three of them. "You can try." Her tone was as calm as ever. A dark light flashed in the eyes of the three people, carrying a strong killing intent. In an instant, three waves of soul-stirring fluctuations began to intertwine, sweeping out in all directions like a tempestuous wave. The three Chaos Realm experts coldly looked at the Violet Fairy. Their auras began to rise. In the blink of an eye, their blood undulations surged like the Milky Way. It was as though three volcanoes were about to erupt. Soon, their auras increased by more than 2 times. And this was not the end. "Oh my! This is actually still rising?" Whooshing Crocodile trembled. The expressions of Lin Tian and the others changed as well. At this moment, their hearts trembled. The power of the three seemed to be limitless, continuously climbing higher and higher. It was frightening. Boom! This space trembled, and the entire world began to shake because of the rise of these three auras. In just an instant, all the creatures in this world trembled in fear, as if the end of the world was coming. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, dozens of breaths had passed. Violent winds swept out in all directions, causing the ground to crumble continuously. The bodies of the three shone with resplendent divine light. The Tao radiance was resplendent, and their auras were powerful to the extreme. Their blood and chi were as vigorous as a starry sky. "Strong. He's 10 times stronger than before." This, Whooshing Crocodile said in a trembling voice. The expressions of Lin Tian and the others changed again and again. At this moment, facing these three auras, they were all speechless. The three Chaos Realm experts looked at the Violet Fairy. Their blood and chi were like a long river going against the sky. The power of the great Tao floated around them, and gusts of violent winds swept out, causing the black hair on the Violet Fairy's back, which reached her waist, to sway continuously. The Flame Devil said coldly. At this moment, he had a divine aura of disdain for the world. "How is it?" The Violet Fairy looked down and did not say a word. She only raised her right hand. With a clang, a divine light flew out. It was extremely fast and arrived in an instant. This Emperor's combat power has returned to its peak. Pooh! The god-slaying light was frighteningly fast. It broke through the light screen of the Flame Devil's body and directly chopped off his head. Lin Tian and the others trembled, and their expressions changed again. Whooshing Crocodile's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The scales on his body stood up again, and he swallowed hard. Bai Ziki and Bai Chiu stared at the sky, but they did not say a word. Too powerful. Facing the Flame Devil, who was 10 times stronger than before, she still chopped off his head with a single strike. "Impossible!" the Flame Devil roared. His deity soul was not destroyed, and he reformed his emperor body. His eyes were full of fire. When he saw the indifferent look in the Violet Fairy's eyes, he could not help but feel angry. He took a step forward and charged towards the Violet Fairy with overflowing demonic flames. "Go! Let's kill her together!" Great Emperor Luo Tsang and Taoist Pu Yuan were clearly shocked by the Violet Fairy's power. At this moment, they did not hesitate and followed behind the Flame Devil, charging forward together. In an instant, the three great experts surrounded the Violet Fairy from 3 different directions. Hong! The violent power of laws intertwined. When the emperors attacked, a casual strike was filled with the power of the Tao. This space had almost turned into a sea of Tao. The Violet Fairy was surrounded by the 3 of them. Her size was much smaller than the 3 of them, but there was not the slightest hint of emotion on her face. She blocked the attacks of the 3 of them time and time again, moving like a gentle breeze. Looking ahead, the divine light and Tao light intertwined. Every strand seemed to be able to destroy everything. It was extremely horrifying. Bang! Taoist Pu Yuan was the first to be swept away as half of his body was smashed apart. Soon after, a loud roar was heard as Great Emperor Luo Song flew out. One of his arms was torn off, and his emperor blood filled the sky. Another 2 breaths of time passed. The flame devil roared and was also slashed away, smashing into a huge mountain far away. He was then drowned by the gravel that filled the sky. In this short clash, the 3 great emperors who had unsealed their secret techniques were at an absolute disadvantage and could not contend against the Violet Fairy. Honk! 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 3 waves of emperor prowess rushed up again as the 3 of them rushed into the sky again. "You are almost comparable to those 9. Great Emperor Luo Tsang said coldly. At this moment, the 3 Chaos Realm Emperors looked at the Violet Fairy with fear in their eyes. "Display your strongest moves. Don't leave any regrets for yourselves." The Violet Fairy looked at the 3 of them and said with a calm voice, "Because all of you are going to die here today. You are very powerful, but do you really think you can kill us? Emperors won't die so easily." The 3 of them had cold eyes. Outside their bodies, their auras were getting denser. In this space, even the great Tao was rumbling. "It is just the name of a realm. Killing all of you is very simple." The Violet Fairy was very calm. The 3 of them had endless cold light in their eyes as their auras rose again. "Then try it," the Flame Devil shouted, "pure devil flame." There was a loud boom as a torrential wave rushed out from his body. Black flames rushed out as though it was going to melt this entire world. At the same time, there was an even more astonishing power of laws fusing within this flame. "I will slay you." At this moment, Taoist Pu Yuan's eyes turned cold, giving people a feeling of emptiness. It was as if his eyes wanted to swallow people's souls. It was as if there were endless, resentful spirits howling in his eyes, causing people's hearts to tremble. "This is Enai?" Lin Tian's heart trembled. He only looked at those eyes from afar and felt as though his entire soul was being sucked in. Boom! The aura outside Emperor Luo Song's body became even more terrifying. He raised his hand and pulled out a complete great Tao. He held it in his hand as though it was a divine weapon. His killing intent was terrifying. At this moment, the killing aura outside the 3 emperors was undoubtedly stronger and more shocking. It was as though they were going to tear this world apart. Will the demon emperor be able to stop them all by herself? Whooshing Crocodile was horrified. The Violet Fairy looked at the 3 of them without any change in her expression. Only the killing light outside her body became more numerous. "Kill!" Among the 3 emperors, one of them roared and rushed out at the same time. The 3 emperors all displayed their killing techniques. The Flame Devil's black devil flame burned everything. Even the great Tao couldn't withstand it. After Taoist Pu Yuan opened his Enai, his movements were undoubtedly faster and his attacks were more terrifying. On the other side, Emperor Luo Tsang waved his great Tao and fought, causing the sky to tremble. Spatial cracks constantly appeared as strands of chaotic light intertwined. Boom! This was a truly destructive confrontation. The 3 emperors used all their techniques and suppressed the Violet Fairy from all directions. Lin Tian worriedly looked up into the sky, but soon, the worry in his eyes completely disappeared. As far as the eye could see, facing the strongest attacks of the 3 great emperors, the Violet Fairy walked through the 3 of them, as if it was walking on flat ground. The god-slaying light easily destroyed the pure devil flames of the Flame Devil, shattered Taoist Pu Yuan's Enai killing light, and destroyed Grand Emperor Luo Tsang's great Tao. With a puff, the Flame Devil was the first to suffer. Under the god's slaying light, his emperor body exploded and his divine soul was almost shattered. "Ah!" Taoist Pu Yuan screamed. The god's slaying light streaked across and pierced his eyes. Puff! Emperor Luo Tsang didn't have it easy either. His emperor body was cut into pieces. Only his divine soul escaped in a sorry state. It wrapped around the broken emperor body and began to reassemble in the distance. The Violet Fairy looked at the 3 emperors and took the initiative to step forward. The god-slaying light danced around her and slashed everything in its path. Emperor Luo Tsang was currently reassembling his fleshy body and was cut into a bloody mist. A small part of his divine soul was shattered. Beast Emperor, you comes. The god-slaying light rang and tore through the sky. It fell like a waterfall, covering this entire space. It attacked the three primal chaos realm experts at the same time. Pooh! 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 Rays of bloody light were blinding and demonic. The three primal chaos realm experts roared and struggled with all their might. But the space around them was sealed by the god-slaying light, sealing them in a narrow space. Open! After an unknown period of time, the three emperors were injured continuously. Finally, they roared and worked together to open up a path, escaping from the god-slaying light. The three emperors and the alligator sucked in a cold breath. The violet fairy was too strong. Facing the three emperors working together, she had the upper hand and was suppressing them. Emperor Luo and the other two emperors escaped from the god-slaying light. Their expressions turned ugly. Their auras fell by a lot, and their blood and chi became much weaker. Damn! At this moment, they saw the gap between them. They were not a match for the violet fairy. Even if the three of them worked together, they could not defeat her. The violet crystal spirit stepped into the void. Her steps were gentle as she walked towards the three emperors. The god-slaying light revolved around her body, and it was like a heavenly army. Who among you will die first? She said. The three primal chaos realm experts had gloomy expressions. Flame Devil gritted his teeth. We have no enmity with you. Do you really want to kill us? You have injured him. Injuring him with the strength of an emperor is intolerable. The violet fairy said. The three emperors glanced at Lin Tian. They were shocked. Who would have thought that the demonic beast emperor would go to such an extent for a human? At the same time, this made the three even more furious. Just because of this, you want to kill us all? Then, how about enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? Chapter 778. Hearing the violet fairy's words, the faces of Emperor Luo and the others became even uglier. They clenched their fists tightly. The violet fairy looked at the three great experts and calmly stepped forward. One of you used the essence of 10,000 spirits to replenish your lifespan. One used the primordial een of a young girl to cultivate a divine ability, and one even killed your master to steal his fruit. It's not too much for me to kill you. The three's faces were ashen, and there was a sinister light in their eyes. Those people have nothing to do with you. The flame demon said. That's why I said I'm enforcing justice on behalf of heaven. The god-slaying light intertwined around the violet fairy, making a sonorous sound. Perhaps you can also think that I don't like you. The sinister light in the eyes of Emperor Luo and the others became even more intense. Since the violet fairy had said so, what else could they do? Then let's see if you can kill us. Daoist Pu Yuan said coldly. With a boom, his eyes shone with a dark light, as if it was the power of extreme een. In an instant, a vast void was pulled open, and from within, a dense crowd of souls rushed out. They all had the appearance of young girls, and their faces were ruthless and ferocious. 9,999 killing puppets, all refined from the souls of virgins. Let's see how you block them. The man shouted. Thousands of young girls' souls intertwined, and all of them roared. Their resentment was monstrous, and they carried a terrifying, demonic nature, causing the space to turn blood red. The three people and one alligator trembled, and their minds seemed to be about to crack. Bastard! Lin Tian gritted his teeth. These were all young girls in their prime. From the looks of it, this Daoist Pu Yuan had extracted their souls while they were still alive and refined their pure virgin souls into killing puppets. This was too cruel and inhumane. He was worse than a beast. He was extremely furious, but he was also a bit worried. The murderous puppets formed from the souls of these several thousand young girls were too terrifying, interweaving with a resentment that could obliterate all things. Even the great Tao in the surroundings was wailing, as if it was facing tremendous pressure. Looking at this scene, even emperors like Emperor Luo and the Flame Demon were moved. They felt a great threat, and their eyes flickered with a strange light. But soon, the two great experts came back to their senses and released an even stronger Emperor aura. "Attack together," the Flame Devil said. The two of them stepped forward, each displaying their divine techniques, pressing forward. Clang! Just then, densely packed god-slaying light descended from the sky and slashed open with undefeatable force, forcing the two of them back. The Violet Fairy looked at Taoist Pu Yuan, her gaze becoming even colder. With a buzzing sound, a blood-red crack appeared behind him. The screams of malicious spirits could be heard, causing one's scalp to go numb. This is a technique from that time. Lin Tian was moved. This was not the first time he had seen such a technique. Back in the first heaven, the Violet Fairy had left a strand of divine sense in his body. Later, when Moe tried to kill him, the strand of divine sense left behind by the Violet Fairy had transformed into a divine sense incarnation at a critical moment and performed this technique. At the same time, Taoist Pu Yuan's expression changed. Grand Emperor Luo Tsang and the Flame Demon's expressions changed as well. All of them trembled. Clearly, they could sense how terrifying this technique was. The blood-red crack appeared behind the Violet Fairy. She looked at Taoist Pu Yuan and said in a cold voice, "I don't need to block it." As her words fell, an even more shocking ghost screech came from the blood-red crack. An astonishing suction force suddenly appeared, and the ferocious souls of those girls were all sucked in the blink of an eye as if they were scraps of paper. "You going too?" She stared at Taoist Pu Yuan. The ghost screech continued, and a huge ghost claw stretched out from the blood-red crack, stretching to the end of the sky. It was horrifying. Taoist Pu Yuan's heart palpitated, and his scalp went cold. He quickly retreated, and his eyes shone brightly as he activated his Emperor-level mystique to resist. However, the giant hand that stretched out from the blood-red crack was too terrifying. It ignored everything and tore everything apart. With an extremely oppressive aura, it smashed Taoist Pu Yuan into pieces. "Ah!" Taoist Pu Yuan roared. His shattered flesh wriggled and gathered in the middle, trying to reform his imperial body. However, the ghost claw obviously did not give him such a chance. With a circle of blood-red light, it directly grabbed the bloody mist after his imperial body was shattered and dragged it into the blood-red crack. "No! Demonic Emperor, stop!" Taoist Pu Yuan shouted. The Violet Fairy was expressionless, and the ghost claw was even more merciless. It dragged Taoist Pu Yuan into the blood-red crack, and only a horrified scream could be heard. Then, the blood-red crack closed, and the oppressive aura instantly disappeared. Bai Qiu, Bai Ziki, and Wuxing Crocodile were all shocked, and their eyes were filled with shock. A primal Chaos Realm Emperor was killed so easily. It's even more terrifying than the last time. Lin Tian's heart was beating wildly. Wuxing Crocodile was trembling. What kind of technique is this? Not only it, even Emperor Luo Tsang and Flame Devil, the two emperors, were shocked by this technique. What kind of technique did you use? Flame Devil said. This secret technique annihilated the terrifying divine ability of Taoist Pu Yuan, who was also an emperor. Immediately after, it devoured Taoist Pu Yuan. This made both him and Grand Emperor Luo Tsang tremble. The Violet Fairy tilted her head and looked at the two. "You should think about yourselves first." Clang! The ear-piercing sound of weapons rang out, and the god-slaying light pressed down on the two emperors with a suppressive force. The two emperors were shaken, and they each used their great techniques to resist. Only their resistance seemed a bit weak. Under the god execution light, the myriad Tao retreated, nothing able to stop it. With two bangs, the two emperors were swept away at the same time, and they both coughed out blood. The Violet Fairy stepped forward, and the god-slaying lights circled around her, making her look like an arrogant princess. Emperor Luo Tsang and Flame Devil were swept away again, and they were both torn into pieces by the god-slaying light. Even their divine souls were almost destroyed. The two coughed out blood, and their faces turned even uglier. All their techniques were useless, and they could not stop the Violet Fairy. Demonic Emperor, are you really going to kill us all? Emperor Luo Tsong's face was ashen. The Violet Fairy's expression remained unchanged. Back then, when you slaughtered tens of thousands of souls and absorbed their life essence to extend your lifespan, how many sects and families did you destroy? At that time, when you faced the lives that begged you for mercy, did you ever think about not killing them all? Emperor Luo Tsong's face became even more ashen. You're about to die. At least, you can maintain your dignity as an emperor. Isn't that good? The Violet Fairy said. As she stepped forward, the god's slaying light fell, sealing off the space and completely suppressing Emperor Luo Tsong. Emperor Luo Tsong roared. You want to kill me? You'll have to pay the price. With a boom, he began to burn his life essence, using it to activate his most powerful divine ability. He pulled out a dozen complete great paths in a row, causing these great paths to burn as well. It was as if he wanted to destroy this entire world. The Violet Fairy raised her hand and used it to activate the god's slaying light. The brilliant light drowned out everything and shattered all the great Taoists. Ah! Emperor Luo Tsong screamed, and his emperor body was shattered again. A divine soul escaped in a sorry state and escaped into the distance. Two beams of light shot out from the Violet Fairy's eyes, and like two immortal heavenly swords, they slashed down and shattered Emperor Luo Tsong's divine soul into pieces. Another emperor, the whooshing crocodile, swallowed his saliva. Lin Tian looked at the Violet Fairy in the sky, surprised by her strength. At the same time, he wondered how such a small body could contain such terrifying power. Other than the 9 heavenly venerables, she was probably invincible. In this place, 3 emperors pressed down, and in the blink of an eye, only the flame demon was left. The Violet Fairy tilted her head, and the god's slaying light beside her became even brighter. It was like a dense group of divine swords, and all of them were aimed at the flame demon. Demon Emperor, don't go too far. The flame demon gritted his teeth. The Violet Fairy was very calm. You killed your master and stole his path. Even if I kill you 10,000 times, it won't be too much. With a hum, the densely packed god's slaying light whizzed and slashed at the flame demon. The flame demon was shocked and angry. It immediately revealed its true form, turning into a lava giant that was more than 100 feet tall. Lava flowed on the surface of its body. In an instant, the temperature of the space rose. Even someone as powerful as Lin Tian felt the heat rising, as if his body was about to melt. The surrounding plants were also sizzling, as if they were ignited. Pure demonic flames. The flame demon roared. After it revealed its true form, it became several times more powerful. A mass of black flames coalesced, forcibly pushing away the densely packed god-slaying light and shrouding the Violet Fairy, distorting space and even interfering with the Great Path. My demonic flames can burn everything. Demon Emperor, you won't have it easy, it said fiercely. The pure demonic flames sealed all directions, condensing into tens of thousands of flame balls that sealed the space around the Violet Fairy. The Violet Fairy's expression didn't change at all. She formed a seal with one hand, and for the second time, she slashed down gently. Clang! The god-slaying light rumbled, and the light rushed into the sky. Sizzling sounds quickly spread out, and the densely packed demonic flame balls all around were shattered. Then, a god-slaying light that was more than 100 feet long fell, directly slashing the flame demon, and even its spirit body was destroyed. Suddenly, the space became quiet. The blazing aura dissipated, and the air temperature returned to normal. All dead. The 5 elements crocodile shrunk his neck. 3 primal chaos realm experts had killed their way here to snatch little AI's seal of life and death. They then joined forces to fight against the Violet Fairy. Yet before they could do anything, they were cleanly cut down by the Violet Fairy. Lin Tian breathed a sigh of relief. The Violet Fairy had defeated the three Emperor Realm powerhouses. Little Violet, he shouted towards the sky. Even though he knew the Violet Fairy's identity, he still didn't change the way he addressed her. Hearing him call her that, Bai Qiu and Bai Ziki looked at him in unison. Whooshing Crocodile almost fell down. Even though the two of them had heard Lin Tian call the Demon Emperor that before, they still felt their hearts skip a beat. Chapter 779. Lin Tian felt a little awkward. He called the Violet Fairy Little Violet mostly because he felt that it was more intimate. He didn't expect the queen of the monster race to call him Big Brother. On the side, Bai Ziki and Bai Qiu were both stunned. The Whooshing Crocodile's mouth was wide open, and he was almost petrified on the spot. The most amazing queen in the history of the monster race actually called Lin Tian Big Brother? What's wrong? The Violet Fairy stood barefoot in the air in front of Lin Tian and smiled like a little girl. I was picked up by you in the big forest. I like being called Big Brother. Whooshing Crocodile, Bai Qiu, and Bai Ziki picked up a monster emperor. Two people and one crocodile turned their heads and looked at Lin Tian in unison. Lin Tian blushed with shame, but then he thought of something and asked the Violet Fairy what happened at that time. He had always wanted to ask the Violet Fairy this question. The Violet Fairy was obviously peerlessly powerful, but when he met her in the dark forest of the first heaven, the Violet Fairy was ignorant. She didn't know anything other than her name, and she didn't have the slightest strength. She was almost killed by an ordinary low-level monster beast, which made him feel very strange. That was the most dangerous time for me. I lost all my strength, and I only remembered my name. I almost died. The Violet Fairy smiled and looked at Lin Tiandao. You appeared at the most dangerous time. This is the will of the heavens, right? Then she said, I like it when you call me Little Violet. She was barefoot, almost floating in front of Lin Tian, full of spirituality. Like a real fairy. Bai Qiu's eyes sparkled. Lin Tian looked at the Violet Fairy, paused, and said, well, then let's be like that time. The time he said was naturally referring to the time when he led the Violet Fairy through the dark forest. The Violet Fairy nodded. Okay. Whooshing Crocodile's eyes widened in shock. Was the Violet Fairy in front of him still a monster emperor? She was like a completely different person from when they were fighting just now. Looking at her now, she was simply an ordinary little girl. At this time, little AI looked up at the Violet Fairy. Although she was a little scared, she still asked hopefully, Big Sister, can you bring Grandpa and the others back to life? Although the little girl did not know how to cultivate, she felt that the Violet Fairy was very powerful. She thought that the Violet Fairy should be able to bring the people in the village back to life. Hearing little AI's words and seeing the look of anticipation on her face, Lin Tian and the others suddenly felt uncomfortable. How could a dead person come back to life? Little AI could only be said to be a miracle among miracles. The Violet Fairy lowered her head and looked at little AI. She shook her head slightly and slowly walked in front of the little girl. Then, she reached out a hand and pressed down on little AI's head. Wisps of gentle divine light instantly descended and enveloped little AI. Buzz! Wisps of gentle light entered little AI's body. In the blink of an eye, the life force in the little girl's body rapidly strengthened. Soon, it reached a balance with the yin qi. Then, her blood-red eyes gradually returned to normal and were full of luster. The seal of life and death on her forehead also slowly disappeared and hid inside her body. That special aura also disappeared. Lin Tian and the others were both shocked and delighted. Based on little AI's natural growth, it would take at least 3 months for her eyes to return to normal. But now, with the Violet Fairy's help, little AI truly returned to normal in an instant. Thank you, Senior. Bai Qiu expressed his gratitude. He would not call the Violet Fairy Little Purple like Lin Tian did. The Violet Fairy shook her head at Bai Qiu and said politely, It's all right. The Violet Fairy had a head of soft black hair that fell to her waist. She was very beautiful. In Bai Qiu's words, She really looked like a real fairy. She floated barefoot beside Lin Tian, maintaining the same height as Lin Tian. Lin Tian chatted with her for a while. Then, the group walked towards the green hills near the village and rebuilt the graves of the villagers that were destroyed by Grand Emperor Luozong and the others. Little AI looked at the small graves and shed tears. Her small body kept twitching, and the space between her eyebrows lit up from time to time. Seal of life and death. The violet fairy's eyes flickered with a faint light. The group stayed at this place for about 2 hours before leaving. Soon, they were very far away from the green hills. Little AI was led by Bai Chio, and Bai Ziki followed at the side. Whooshing Crocodile was carefully sizing up the violet fairy. That's right, Little Purple. I have a friend who has gone missing in this heaven region. Can you help me look for him? Lin Tian asked the violet fairy. The violet fairy was at the Emperor realm, and an extremely powerful one at that. He believed that with the violet fairy's power, she would definitely be able to find Fan Yingxiong quickly. Sure. The violet fairy nodded. Lin Tian then imprinted Fan Yingxiong's appearance with his divine sense. Immediately after, the violet fairy's eyes flickered with a faint light. In the blink of an eye, a few breaths passed. Found him in an ancient land, the violet fairy said. Suddenly, her eyes flickered. Barbarian King physique. When Lin Tian heard this, he had yet to recover from the pleasant surprise of found him. The next moment, he was stunned by the words Barbarian King physique. Obviously, the Barbarian King physique mentioned by the Violet Fairy was referring to Fan Yingxiong, whom she had found. He has the Barbarian King physique? He was slightly surprised. Beside him, Bai Ziki and Bai Chio were also surprised. Lord Crocodile said so. That barbarian must have a Barbarian King physique if he doesn't have an extremely heaven-defying aptitude. Whooshing Crocodile said at this moment. Lin Tian understood. It was no wonder that the barbarians were so nervous and angry about Fan Yingxiong's disappearance. They said that Fan Yingxiong was the hope of this generation of the barbarians. It turned out that he had a Barbarian King physique. At the same time, he also remembered that when he first came to this realm, he was smashed back by Fan Yingxiong with one punch. Even the web between his thumb and index finger almost split open. At that time, he was very surprised by the tyrannical strength of Fan Yingxiong's physical body. It was far beyond the strength of a powerhouse of the same realm. Now that he knew that the other party had the Barbarian King physique, he was not surprised at all. The Barbarian King physique was known for its boundless strength. It could lift a hand and throw a mountain. In terms of physical strength, among the 12 King physiques, only his reincarnation physique could suppress the Barbarian King physique. Moreover, it would take a little effort. That ancient land is a little special. At least, it is very special for your level of cultivation. It can be called a rare spiritual realm. There is a lot of psionic energy intertwined in the depths of that ancient land. It is very suitable for your cultivation. There should not be a big problem for each of you to advance a small level. The Violet Fairy said. This was undoubtedly a happy occasion. Lin Tian and the others' eyes lit up. Shall we walk there? The Violet Fairy looked at Lin Tian and said, We haven't walked there in a long time. Your friend is not in any danger now. There is no need to rush. When she said walk, she naturally meant walking. Lin Tian nodded. Okay, then let's walk there. Since Fan Yingxiong had been found and was not in danger, Lin Tian was naturally not in a hurry. The Violet Fairy descended from the sky. She was wearing a pure white dress and barefoot. She stood beside Lin Tian like a little princess. Lin Tian looked at the barefoot Violet Fairy and asked, Is it okay for you to be like this? Won't it be uncomfortable? The Violet Fairy looked down and then looked up at Lin Tian. There is divine power protecting my body. It will be fine. Lin Tian blushed with sweat and felt a little embarrassed. Actually, when he thought about it, the Violet Fairy was in the Emperor realm. Even if there was no divine power protecting her body, she should not feel uncomfortable walking barefoot. After all, she was an Emperor realm powerhouse. You are confused because you are concerned? The Violet Fairy smiled, looking very sly. Lin Tian felt even more embarrassed. After the Violet Fairy pointed the way, they headed toward the ancient land where Fanning Xiong was trapped. The group walked out of the mountain. They did not hide anything and walked along the main road. There were naturally many cultivators walking around the main road. When they saw Lin Tian and the others appear, they all turned pale with fright. It's that ruthless person and that Thunder God King physique. He killed dozens of Dao realm powerhouses from several large clans and still dares to strut around like this. These people, these cultivators were astonished. Among these cultivators, there were young female cultivators who looked at the group. Suddenly, their gazes all landed on the Violet Fairy. Their eyes lit up. That exquisite little girl. Her hair is so beautiful. It hangs down to her waist. She looks like a little fairy. So cute. These female cultivators looked at the Violet Fairy, their eyes flashing with fondness. Then, the eyes of some nearby cultivators also lit up. The Violet Fairy was truly too eye-catching. She is very beautiful. It's a pity that she's walking together with that ruthless person. Is she that ruthless person's sister? I don't know. The large clans won't let that ruthless person go. This girl is walking together with that ruthless person. This will be troublesome. Some cultivators shook their heads. The Violet Fairy walked barefoot beside Lin Tian. She seemed very quiet. Her black hair naturally hung down to her waist. As she walked, it swayed. It was very moving. Lin Tian and the others did not pay attention to these cultivators. They also did not pay attention to these people's discussions. The group walked along the main road, talking about things from time to time. Soon, they crossed a large mountain and appeared on another main road. There were no trees on either side of the main road. It was an ordinary flat land with plenty of grass growing. Some reddish-yellow rocks were scattered around. Naturally, there were many cultivators on this main road. When they saw Lin Tian and the others appear, they were all shocked. Many people stared. Lin Tian and the others were very calm. They did not pay attention to these cultivators. They talked to each other and walked into the distance. Boom! At this moment, tyrannical divine power fluctuations surged out. 7 figures appeared in the distant sky. Each of them had an astonishing aura of Tao law intertwined around their bodies. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of the group. With a raise of their hands, they completely sealed the surrounding void. The 7 of them all looked like old men, but their blood and chi fluctuations were extremely vigorous. They were like 7 burning furnaces. None of you will live, one of them said coldly, staring at Lin Tian and Bai Ziki. Chapter 780. The 7 old men were all intertwined with astonishing fluctuations of Tao laws. At a glance, one could tell that they were people who had surpassed the great virtue realm. Just by standing together, powerful divine power spread out in all directions, completely sealing off the void in this place. That's an ancestor of the Stone God clan. Also, there's an ancestor of the Bone clan, an ancestor of the Sorcerer clan. The 7 of them are all Wuxian powerhouses. Many cultivators' expressions changed. The 7 old men were an ancestor of the Stone God clan, the Bone clan, the Sorcerer clan, the Sea clan, the Blood Wolf clan, the Ant clan, and the Dark Shadow clan. All of them were exuberant, but their eyes were intertwined with a cold light. We've personally come out to deal with you. Even if you die here, it's enough for you to be honored. The ancestor of the Stone God clan said coldly. The other 6 people who came with him also had eyes as sharp as knives, without the slightest emotion in them. They were the strongest combat power of their respective clans. They should have been guarding their respective clans and would not walk out of their main clans. However, they had no choice but to come out now. It was because Lin Tian and Bai Ziki made the other clans feel great pressure. Now, these powerhouses came out. They no longer simply wanted to avenge the dead saints of their clans or wash away their shame. Instead, they wanted to deal with potential threats. Now, if they allowed Lin Tian to continue growing, there would definitely be a great calamity in the future. And there was no need to talk about the Thunder God physique. Once he reached the great perfection stage, he would be able to uproot several of their great clans with a raise of his hand. How could they allow these two threats to continue growing? They had to be killed. Lin Tian and the others looked at each other. Looking at the 7 old men, they opened their mouths, but could not say a word. At this moment, in the eyes of the 3 people and the crocodile, the scene of the 7 Wuxian powerhouses charging over was a little comical. It was as if they were acting in a circus. "Kill him directly," someone said coldly. Among the 7, the ancestor of the Stone God clan directly raised his hand. His large hand covered the sky, intertwined with strands of Dao laws, and grabbed at Lin Tian. When a Wuxian powerhouse attacked, the power was a little terrifying. Wind and clouds surged in this place in an instant. The space could not withstand such fluctuations and creaked as if it would shatter in the next moment. Many cultivators around them changed their expressions. "It's over," someone murmured. Lin Tian was very monstrous, but now, how could he possibly stop a Wuxian elite? The difference in cultivation was too great. Boom! The giant hand shook the heavens, ruthlessly and mercilessly grabbing at Lin Tian's head. Lin Tian, by Ziki, glared at him. Even the usually calm, by Ziki, felt a little speechless. He turned his head and looked away. Wuxing Crocodile sighed. The god of longevity is really tired of living. There was an emperor standing here. Moreover, even in the emperor realm, he was a king-level existence. He was almost invincible under the 9 great heavenly venerables. Now, a Wuxian cultivator actually dared to make a move like this. Boom! The Dao Law circled around the giant hand, intertwining with monstrous waves of divine power. It was boundless and made the hearts of all the surrounding cultivators tremble. This was a cultivator at the enlightened realm. He was too strong. A casual palm had such power. Even if a cultivator at the 9th heaven of the Great Path attacked with all his might, he would not be able to block it. "Die!" The patriarch of the Stone God clan said coldly. The giant hand that pressed down emitted an even more ferocious aura, crushing everything. In the blink of an eye, the giant hand approached and truly pressed down on Lin Tian's head. At this moment, the Violet Fairy looked up and stared at the patriarch of the Stone God clan. A faint light flashed in her eyes. Poof! The patriarch of the Stone God clan's extended hand shattered directly. Not even a drop of blood flowed out. The entire arm evaporated into thin air. Then, the patriarch of the Stone God clan's body exploded with a poof and scattered with a light breeze like sand. This scene immediately caused the expressions of all the cultivators to change. What? The patriarch of the Stone God clan is dead. How can it be? What happened? The cultivators all changed their expressions. Among them, a young female cultivator widened her eyes. She pointed at the Violet Fairy and said in a trembling voice, She. That beautiful little girl who looks like a fairy seemed to have glanced at the patriarch of the Stone God clan just now. I saw it too. Me too. That girl, some other female cultivators also spoke up, their faces full of shock. In this place, all the female cultivators were captivated by the Violet Fairy. When the patriarch of the Stone God clan attacked Lin Tian, the Violet Fairy was right next to Lin Tian. These female cultivators all looked at the Violet Fairy and felt that it was a pity that the Violet Fairy was also going to suffer. It was also because they were looking at the Violet Fairy that they saw her tiny movements. At this moment, the patriarch of the Sorcerer clan and the others on the opposite side were shocked. The moment the patriarch of the Stone God clan exploded, they clearly felt an extremely terrifying pressure. It felt as if the starry sky was pressing down on them. You? Who are you? The patriarch of the Bone clan said in a trembling voice. At this moment, the 6 Wuxian powerhouses all looked at the Violet Fairy with a sense of fear. Cold sweat instantly drenched their backs. The Violet Fairy looked at the 6 of them. Divine light intertwined around her, and 6 beams of God-slaying light appeared. The imperial aura instantly enveloped the surroundings. Instantly, the 6 Wuxian elders were even more terrified. They could not stop trembling as if the end of the world had come. You Imperial Emperor? Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The 6 beams of God's slaying light pressed down in the blink of an eye and instantly destroyed the 6 of them. Using a sledgehammer to kill a chicken, the whooshing crocodile shrank its neck. Near this avenue, all the cultivators were stunned. Then, one by one, they trembled and looked at the violet fairy beside Lin Tian in horror. Their hearts were all beating wildly. This, she, an imperial emperor? How is this possible? This beautiful little girl, how could she be an imperial emperor? Everyone was stunned. Lin Tian glanced at the cultivators nearby and did not pay them any attention. However, a glimmer of light suddenly flashed in his eyes. I suddenly thought of changing our route temporarily and visiting the Stone God clan and the other major clans. What do you think? He said. Fanning Xiong has been found, and he is not in danger. Naturally, he doesn't need to worry about Fanning Xiong now. Hearing his words, the whooshing crocodile and Bai Qiu both widened their eyes. Bai Ziki opened his mouth, but didn't say a word. Bai Qiu glanced at the violet fairy and whispered, "Go visit. I've always been taken care of by them. It's only right to pay them a visit." Lin Tiandao looked at the violet fairy and asked, "What do you think?" "Okay." The violet fairy nodded. "Then it's decided." Lin Tian smiled and said, "Let's go on foot. Let's start with the Ant Clan and visit them one by one." He emphasized the word visit particularly loudly. Whooshing crocodile, Bai Qiu, and Bai Ziki. Bringing an imperial emperor to visit the major clans will scare them to death. Whooshing crocodile muttered. In the 4th heaven, the location of the major clans was naturally not a secret. Everyone knew about it. Lin Tianyi and the others changed their direction and walked in another direction. Because they were walking, the speed of the group was naturally not very fast. During this process, divine sense images were quickly transmitted to every corner of this great world. It was the scene of the old ancestor of the Stone God clan and the other 6 grand elders chasing after Lin Tian, only to be wiped out by the violet fairy in the blink of an eye. This instantly shocked the entire 4th heaven. That little girl, is she really an imperial emperor? Those who witnessed that scene with their own eyes said that they felt a wisp of imperial pressure, as if a galaxy was pressing down on them. That ruthless man, how could he have an imperial emperor by his side? Such a beautiful and delicate little girl. She is actually an imperial emperor? Many cultivators were shocked. In an instant, a monstrous wave swept across the entire 4th heaven, causing the hearts of all the cultivators and major clans to tremble. An emperor had walked out of the heaven realm. After the deaths of the Stone God clan ancestor and the Bone clan ancestor, the Stone God clan and the other great clans were the first to notice. But before they had time to investigate, the contents of the intertwined divine sense imprints that were circulating in this heaven domain were quickly transmitted back to the main clan at the center of each clan. In an instant, the 7 great clans all became terrified. How could this be? He has an imperial emperor by his side? How could a legendary existence be by his side? How is this possible? The big figures of the major clans trembled. An imperial emperor, an existence in the chaos realm. How could such a peerless existence be by Lin Tian's side? They had sent out powerhouses several times to desperately hunt down Lin Tian, but Lin Tian had an imperial emperor by his side. This was tantamount to provoking an imperial emperor in disguise. An imperial emperor. That was a legendary existence. That day, all of the great clans were terrified from top to bottom. They couldn't sit still. It was also on this day that after the divine sense images were transmitted, a cultivator said, that ruthless man, together with that imperial emperor, seems to be heading towards the main clan of the Ant Clan. As soon as this voice came out, many people widened their eyes, and their hearts skipped a beat. That ruthless man, what is he going to do? Is he going to attack the Ant Clan with an imperial emperor? Many cultivators felt their hearts palpitate. The experts of the ant clan naturally heard the news as soon as possible. Suddenly, all the big figures trembled. Lin Tian had brought the Imperial Dynasty's clan over. What is he going to do? The main clan of the ant clan was located at the top of a majestic mountain. The surrounding spiritual energy was extremely dense, and it was very suitable for cultivation. Lin Tian and his group walked on foot, and only after 2 days did they reach the vicinity of the mountain. They slowly walked towards the mountain. At the same time, Lin Tian directly said, Lin Tian is here to pay a visit. Wuxing Crocodile, Bai Qiu, and Bai Ziki. I wonder if the big figures of this clan will faint from fear. Wuxing Crocodile muttered. Chapter 781. When they heard that Lin Tian was leading the Violet Fairy towards the ant tribe, the important figures of the ant tribe were truly frightened. They even forgot about the death of their own ancestor Wuxin. All the important figures who were still alive walked out, and the other experts walked out as well. They had been waiting at the foot of the ant tribe's mountain for a long time. When they saw Lin Tian and the Violet Fairy approaching, no one dared to hesitate. They all rushed over as fast as they could and knelt on the ground to pay their respects. The Violet Fairy stood beside Lin Tian with her black hair draped behind her back. She didn't express anything towards the cultivators of the ant tribe. Lin Tianwei narrowed her eyes and sized up the people of this tribe. In the past, the people of this tribe had tried to kill her several times. Now, they were all kneeling in front of her. Even the tribe leader and grand elder of this tribe were no exception. It was a huge contrast. Wuxing Crocodile was very direct. He stared at the experts of the ant tribe and said, Little ants, how many times have you tried to kill Lin Tian? When the experts of the ant tribe heard this, they all trembled in fear. How would they dare to admit it at this time? The tribe leader of this tribe trembled and said, It's a misunderstanding. A huge misunderstanding. How would we dare to do that? We definitely don't have such intentions. Previously, that junior of the clan thought that he was a genius young supreme and offended young friend Lin. He deserved to be killed by young friend Lin, but we didn't care. After that, the people who went out to provoke young friend Lin were all related to that bastard junior. They weren't ordered by our clan. Our clan doesn't have the slightest bit of enmity towards young friend Lin. Now, the Emperor-rank Violet Fairy was standing beside Lin Tian. Moreover, they seemed to have a very good relationship. This caused the cultivators of the ant tribe to tremble in fear. At this time, the tribe leader of the ant tribe angrily denounced the young supreme of the ant tribe as a vile junior. He only hoped that Lin Tian wouldn't be angry, because once Lin Tian was angry, it meant that the Violet Fairy was angry. The Violet Fairy was an emperor. If an emperor was angry, he could wipe the ant tribe from this world with a raise of his hand. Oh! Wuxing Crocodile didn't let it go. Your tribe's ancestor Wuxin is also related to that vile junior? Hearing this, the experts of the ant race all trembled. Ancestor. Ancestor is the great-grandfather of that evil creature's descendant. The ant tribe leader said in a trembling voice. Bai Qiu had heard Lin Tian mention the grudges between the ant tribe and the other tribes. He glanced at the leader of the ant tribe and snorted. Lin Tian glanced at the members of the ant tribe and did not speak. The Violet Fairy did not care either, causing the ant tribe leader and the others to not dare to stand up. They were all trembling. Lin Tian's eyes glinted. After a while, he said, All right, I'll take it that you ants have no intention of killing me. As soon as he said this, all the important figures of the ant race were overjoyed. They didn't expect Lin Tian to believe him so easily. One of the grand elders from the same faction said excitedly, Thank you, young friend Lin. Thank you, little friend Lin. Lin Tian's words were equivalent to the ant tribe being saved. They didn't have to worry about being destroyed by the emperor. At this moment, Lin Tian spoke again. However, I don't think that your ant tribe has such intentions. But your ant tribe has indeed sent experts to hunt me down several times. It has greatly affected me and delayed my cultivation. In the end, this is related to your ant tribe. I think that it's only right for you to make some compensation for this, right? Of course, of course, of course, the ant tribe leader said repeatedly. At this moment, the ant tribe only hoped that Lin Tian wouldn't be angry. How could they dare to question Lin Tian's words? Young friend Lin, what do you want? As long as it's something that our tribe can offer, we won't dare to hesitate in the slightest. One of the ant tribe's grand elders carefully glanced at the violet fairy and said, All right, Lin Tiandao said, your tribe should have a high-grade Dao weapon. In the future, I want to cultivate a certain paragon art and need a Dharma treasure of this level. Also, I'm very short on Lingjing. Your tribe should have accumulated a lot of Lingjing. Just give me the high-grade Dao weapon and Lingjing that you've accumulated. You won't have any objections? What? A high-grade Dao weapon is our tribe's strongest Dharma treasure. The Lingjing needs to be nurtured when they're young. Young friend Lin, this won't do. Young friend Lin, can you change your condition? The important figures of the ant tribe were anxious. Lin Tian was very calm. He said, other than the high-grade Dao weapon and Lingjing, give me all the Bao Dan. I want the low-grade Dao weapon too. I want the immortal artifact level Dharma treasure too. Lin Tian Dao. All the important figures of the ant tribe trembled and nodded. They didn't dare to have any objections. Now, an emperor was standing beside Lin Tian. The ant tribe didn't have the right to negotiate at all, let alone the courage to refute. If they didn't give up, after the violet fairy destroyed them, Lin Tian could take it himself. At this time, if they hesitated, the ant tribe's mystic arts and Dharma treasures of other levels would all be taken away. They were even afraid that Lin Tian would lose his patience and ask the violet fairy to destroy them directly. Immediately, a grand elder of this branch gritted his teeth and personally took out the treasures that Lin Tian requested. A high-grade Dao weapon level fan, a total of 13 mid-grade and low-grade Dao weapons, and more than 100 immortal artifact level Dharma treasures. As for the Lingjing, it wasn't a small amount either. There were more than 800,000 kilograms piled up in front of Lin Tian. According to young friend Lin's request, all of it is here. The Grand Elder's face was pained. His body trembled, and his eyes were bloodshot. These things were 90% of the ant tribe's heritage. Whooshing Crocodile by Chiao and by Ziki stared at the pair of Dharma treasures Lingjing in front of them. They were all speechless. This was really a naked robbery. Moreover, the important figures of the ant tribe had personally delivered it to them. Lin Tian raised his hand and put away all the treasures. Thank you for your hospitality, he said. Thank you. As soon as he said this, the important figures of the ant tribe felt as if their hearts had been stabbed with a knife. It was extremely uncomfortable. The ant tribe elder said, trembling as he looked at the violet fairy and then at Lin Tian and the others. He invited, Emperor, young friend Lin, and everyone else, would you like to come to my tribe and have a seat? At this time, the important figures of the ant tribe were all heartbroken, but there was nothing they could do. They didn't even dare to hate Lin Tian. If they were discovered, it would bring a devastating disaster to the ant tribe. There's no need. We'll leave now, Lin Tian said. We still have to visit a few other large tribes. Everyone, there's no need to see us off. He said. After saying this, he nodded at Bai Chiao and the others. After saying goodbye to the violet fairy, he walked back the way he came. The powerful figures of the ant tribe were heartbroken and relieved at the same time. The feeling in their hearts was indescribable. Farewell, Emperor. Farewell, young friend Lin. Some of the important figures said. Soon, the figures of Lin Tian and the others disappeared from the sight of the important figures of the ant tribe. Instantly, the tribe leader and several grand elders of the ant tribe coughed up blood. More blood vessels appeared in their eyes. One by one, they fainted. Tribe leader, elders. The group of cultivators of the ant tribe was shocked and anxious. They hurriedly surrounded them. Haha, this is so cool. Kid, you're so talented. On the main road thousands of feet away from the ant tribe, Whooshing Crocodile laughed loudly and almost shed tears. It actually wanted to say, too despicable, but changed it at the last minute. It was afraid that the Violet Fairy would slap it. Lin Tianyi laughed. They're always chasing after me. This time the tables have turned. I'll take the initiative for once. By Chiu and by Ziki. Lord Crocodile likes it. Wuxing Crocodile laughed loudly. The Violet Fairy didn't say anything. It quietly followed beside Lin Tian. On this day, the group left the ant tribe. As usual, they walked on foot toward the central tribe of the Dark Shadow tribe. The central tribe of the Dark Shadow tribe wasn't close to the main tribe of the ant tribe. Lin Tian and the others walked at a steady pace. It was unknown how many cultivators they attracted. Many people looked at the Violet Fairy from afar, their hearts palpitating. An emperor is following beside him. This ruthless person, what is his relationship with that emperor? Many people's hearts trembled. Not long after, the patriarchs of many large tribes in this region walked out and bowed to the Violet Fairy from afar. The commotion caused by the birth of an emperor was truly too great. The Violet Fairy didn't say anything to the patriarchs who came to pay their respects. Lin Tian and the others didn't care either. That ruthless person, where are they going? That direction, it seems to be, is the location of the Dark Shadow tribe's main tribe. Some cultivators saw it. The group of cultivators didn't dare to approach. They carefully followed behind the group, wanted to know what was going to happen next. Soon, 3 days passed. On this day, Lin Tianyi and the others arrived outside the main tribe of the Dark Shadow tribe. Lin Tian is here to visit. Lin Tian's voice sounded. Like the ant tribe, the people of the Dark Shadow tribe had heard that Lin Tian was coming to the central tribe with the Violet Fairy. The big shots and experts of this tribe were waiting outside the tribe. When they saw that Lin Tian really brought the Violet Fairy to this place, they all trembled. With fear on their faces, they all knelt on the ground and bowed, greeting the emperor in unison. Let's cut to the chase. The Dark Shadow tribe has chased after Lin Tian many times. Today, you have to give us an explanation. Our emperor is benevolent and won't lower himself to your level. However, we will definitely compensate you. Do you have any objections? Wuxing Crocodile went straight to the point. The Dark Shadow tribe said that they didn't dare, and the Violet Fairy followed suit. Whether it was Lin Tian or not, no one dared to refute. Not bad, sensible. Wuxing Crocodile was very satisfied. The outcome was no different from the ant tribes. On this day, the Dark Shadow tribe's most powerful high-grade Dao weapon, the mid-grade Dao weapons, low-grade Dao weapons, immortal artifacts, Lingjing, and Baodan were all taken away. Among them, there was one high-grade Dao weapon, 14 mid-grade and low-grade Dao weapons, more than 100 immortal artifacts, and more than 700,000 kilograms of Lingjing. Naturally, there were countless Baodan and other items. This made the big shots of the Dark Shadow tribe bleed in pain, but there was nothing they could do. Now, the Emperor-level Violet Fairy was with Lin Tian and the others. What right did their tribe have to resist? How could they dare to resist? Chapter 782. The important figures of the Dark Shadow race trembled with heartache and almost fainted. However, Lin Tian and the others didn't care about this at all. They had reaped what they sowed in the past. The so-called cycle of karma was just that simple. Let's go to the Blood Wolf tribe. Lin Tiandao. We're going to take all the treasures of the top few tribes in this heaven domain. If we gather all of them, they'll be great treasures. Wuxing Crocodile clicked its tongue. It was an old monster that had reached the peak of Nirvana realm. It wouldn't be interested in ordinary things. However, if the treasures of several tribes were combined, it wouldn't be simple. Lingjing alone was a huge number. Its value was shocking. The group left the main tribe of the Dark Shadow tribe and walked along the main road toward the main tribe of the Blood Wolf tribe. Far away from the main tribe of the Dark Shadow tribe, many cultivators followed behind them. Naturally, they saw Lin Tianyi and the others take away the treasures of this tribe. They all widened their eyes. The upper-grade Dao weapons of the Dark Shadow tribe were taken away, just like that. Not only the upper-grade Dao weapons, but also the middle-grade Dao weapons, the low-grade Dao weapons, and the immortal Baodan. This is robbery? It seems so. The Dark Shadow tribe went to the ant tribe before. Could it be that the ant tribe was also? Some cultivators looked at each other and were all in a daze. Many cultivators stared at the direction Lin Tian and the others were going. Someone whispered, "They're going to the Blood Wolf tribe." Some cultivators followed them carefully from afar in awe. Lin Tian and the others walked slowly and talked to each other from time to time. Soon, they arrived in front of the main tribe of the Blood Wolf tribe. "Welcome, Your Majesty." The bigwigs and experts of the Blood Wolf tribe all came out to welcome them. They all knelt down and saluted in shock and fear. Lin Tian's expression was calm as he glanced at this group of people. There was nothing much to say about the outcome. About 2 hours later, the group left with 90% of the Blood Wolf tribe's resources. This included more than 800,000 kilograms of Lingjing, a high-grade Dao soldier, dozens of ordinary Dao soldiers, over 100 immortal artifacts, and even more immortal herbs such as Baodan. The cultivators who followed from afar stared blankly, and some even swallowed their saliva. The Blood Wolf clan was also heading towards the bone race again. He wants to, bringing the emperor to raid the various clans? Many cultivators widened their eyes. A group of cultivators cautiously followed behind. Many of them felt a chill run down their spines. In the following period of time, Lin Tian went to the bone race, the sorcerer race, and the sea race one after another. Just like when he went to the ant race, the dark shadow race, and the Blood Wolf tribe, he took away 90% of the resources of the three clans. It had to be said that as the second-level superpowers in this heaven region, the resources of these three clans were indeed much stronger than those of the ant race and the other clans. Each clan had more than 5 million kilograms of Lingjing alone. They also had more Dharma treasures than the ant race and the other clans. During this process, the bigwigs of the clans were bleeding in their hearts. However, they could only hand over the treasures with both hands. No one dared to anger Lin Tianyi and the others at this time, because an emperor was following beside them. "Tsk, what a great harvest!" Wuxing Crocodile laughed. After going through 6 clans, they had a total of 6 high-grade Dao soldiers, 37 middle-grade Dao soldiers, 59 low-grade Dao soldiers, and more than 1,000 immortal artifacts. The Lingjing had a total of 5 million kilograms, and the Baodan and other treasures were even more shocking. "Let's go to the Stone God clan." Lin Tiandao. Wuxing Crocodile chuckled. This clan is one of the top superpowers in this heaven region. Their resources must be even more powerful. The group crossed several mountain ranges and walked towards the Stone God clan at a moderate pace. At this time, there were even more cultivators following behind them. They were densely packed. These cultivators had witnessed Lin Tian and the others take away 90% of the resources of the Dark Shadow clan, Blood Wolf clan, Bone clan, Witch clan, and Sea clan. They were already dumbfounded. Now that they saw the group walking towards the most powerful clan, the Stone God clan, they couldn't help but tremble. A cultivator shrunk his neck. That's really ruthless." Lin Tian and the others were not fast. After about 3 days, they arrived near the Stone God clan. Looking from afar, the center of the Stone God clan was very magnificent. There were many tall stone palaces, and many places were engraved with powerful Dao patterns. The spirit chi in the air was very shocking. It was much stronger than the bone race, the sorcerer race, and the sea race. "Lin Tian is here to visit." Lin Tian's voice came from afar. Hearing this voice, the cultivators following behind cursed silently. This visit was simply asking for death. To the Stone God clan, these words were no doubt a destructive divine sword. It was a terrifying symbol. In front of this clan, a group of important figures and other powerful cultivators of the clan came forward to greet them. Every one of them had a look of awe and fear on their faces. Like the cultivators of the other clans, they all knelt down and saluted the Violet Fairy. Do we need to say more? Wuxing Crocodile narrowed his eyes. We understand. The Stone God clan leader said these words while enduring the pain. He took out a high-grade stone ring. Lin Tian had led the Violet Fairies to the Ant tribe and the other 6 great tribes, taking away 90% of their treasures. The stone gods knew that their lineage would not be able to escape such misfortune, so they had already prepared everything. They were unwilling, but there was nothing they could do. Even the two surviving Wuxian old ancestors could only bow their heads obediently. This was because Lin Tian was followed by an emperor. In front of the emperor, the strength of the fourth heaven was no different from trash. If they angered Lin Tian and provoked the Violet Fairy, their clan would be destroyed in the blink of an eye. Lin Tian raised his hand and took the stone ring from the stone god clan leader's hand. He swept it with his divine sense and found that there was a high-grade Dao weapon, a dozen ordinary Dao weapons, more than 100 immortal weapons, 5 million genes of Ling Jing, and many Baodan inside. He looked at the Stone God clan leader and said, I remember that your Stone God clan has a high-grade Dao weapon. The amount of Ling Jing should be more than 5 million genes, right? The Bone race also has nearly 6 million genes of Ling Jing. In the fourth heaven, the Stone God clan, the Angel clan, and the Holy Light clan each had 3 high-grade Dao weapons. Previously, when the Holy Son of the Stone God clan wanted to kill him, he snatched a high-grade Dao weapon from the other party. This way, the Stone God clan only had 2 high-grade Dao weapons left. Now, the Stone God clan only took one out. Obviously, there was still one hidden in the clan. As for the amount of Ling Jing, the Stone God clan obviously had more than 5 million genes. Can't you leave some for my clan? The Stone God clan leader said in a trembling voice. Lin Tian didn't say anything. He just looked at the other party calmly. Immediately, the Stone God clan's clan leader, a great Dao realm expert, trembled. Even though Lin Tian did not say anything, he felt a wave of fear. He was afraid that Lin Tian would say something that he was afraid of hearing. Immediately, he took out the other high-grade Dao artifact from his clan. At the same time, he also took out 60 kilograms of celestial spirit crystals and presented them to Lin Tian with both hands. It's all here, the Stone God clan leader said in a trembling voice. His heart ached so much that he almost couldn't breathe. Lin Tian raised his hand and put it away, as expected of one of the 3 strongest forces in this heaven. They actually have dozens of genes of immortal Ling Jing. Wuxing Crocodile clicked his tongue and said, 60 genes of immortal Ling Jing was equivalent to 600,000 genes of ordinary Ling Jing, or even more. With the amount of Ling Jing, it is almost comparable to the dragon-seeking family in the third heaven. Lin Tian said in his heart. He didn't care and put away the last high-grade Dao weapon of the Stone God clan and the 60 genes of immortal Ling Jing. Thank you for your kindness, he said, and then left with the Violet Fairy and the others. There's no need to send us off, Wuxing Crocodile said to the people of the Stone God clan. The big shots of the Stone God clan almost fainted, but they didn't dare to show the slightest dissatisfaction. They all bowed deeply. Farewell, Your Majesty, everyone said in unison. They endured the pain in their hearts as they shouted out these 4 words. They were extremely respectful. At this moment, the eyes of the big shots of this clan were bloodshot. They didn't dare to hate Lin Tian. Instead, they hated the holy son of their clan who had been killed by Lin Tian. At the same time, they hated themselves and regretted it. They regretted provoking Lin Tian again and again. If not for that, how could they have ended up like this today? In the distance, the group of cultivators who followed Lin Tian and the others were in a daze. They were like clay sculptures. He really took the emperor to rob several big clans. Someone murmured, staring at the backs of Lin Tian and the others, and seeing the Violet Fairy quietly following Lin Tian. The cultivators felt an indescribable shock in their hearts. It felt as if the Violet Fairy, the emperor, was centered around Lin Tian. Who the hell is he? Some cultivators felt a chill down their spines. Lin Tian and the others left the territory of the Stone God clan and walked on a main road. After passing through 7 big clans, they obtained a total of 8 high-grade Dao weapons, more than 100 ordinary Dao weapons, more than 1,000 immortal artifacts, and nearly 10 million genes of Ling Jing, Baodan, and other treasures. Needless to say, there were countless of them. And all of this was offered by the 7 big clans with both hands. Awesome. The whooshing crocodile laughed heartily. Lin Tian didn't say anything about this, but he felt very relieved. Some time ago, he had been hunted down by these big clans together several times. He looked at the Violet Fairy and said, "Let's go to the ancient land where my friend is trapped." The Violet Fairy nodded. "All right." Then, the group walked in the direction the Violet Fairy had pointed and soon arrived at a slightly larger mountain range. "Is this the place?" Bai Chio was curious. She scanned the surroundings with her divine sense and found that this place seemed very ordinary. There was nothing special about it. The Violet Fairy raised her hand, and a circle of divine light flashed. Suddenly, the void in front of them rippled like water. Immediately after, a wondrous scene appeared behind these ripples, revealing a beautiful mountain range. There were waterfalls suspended in the air, rainbows in the sky, and stalks of extremely special, wondrous trees. They were all things that couldn't be seen outside, growing extremely luxuriantly. Chapter 783. When Lin Tian saw the scene behind the ripples and heard the Violet Fairy's words, he couldn't help but nod secretly. Back then, there was a similar space in the God of Heaven mountain outside Little AI's village. However, the space barrier there seemed to be much weaker than here. He could enter with the dragon burial scripture, and an ancestor of the witch race had also stepped in. The group of people stepped through the door of the spirit domain that the Violet Fairy had opened and immediately felt the abundant spiritual energy fluctuations. It was about twice as rich as the outside world. A real blessed land for immortal cultivators. Bai Chio whispered. Lin Tian and the others followed the direction the Violet Fairy had pointed out and continued to walk forward in this spirit domain. Not long after, they saw several corpses one after another. Although they were all badly mutilated, they could tell that they were all cultivators of the insect race. They should have been at the peak of the half-step Great Tao when they were alive. Lin Tian frowned. They chased after Hero all the way and entered at the same time. Then they died? That's about it. Whooshing Crocodile said, "There will usually be powerful demonic spirits in a spirit domain like this, similar to the guardian beasts. I reckon that these insect race people were killed by the demonic spirits in this domain. It had once been at the peak of the Nirvana realm, so it naturally knew a lot about special small spaces like the spirit domain." Hearing Whooshing Crocodile's words, Lin Tian couldn't help but worry even though he knew that Fanning Xion wasn't killed. As if seeing his worry, the Violet Fairy said, "That person is very safe." She walked barefoot as she led the way from the side. Soon, a few large rocks appeared in front of them. Under the large rock in the middle, a burly young man was sitting on the ground. There were traces of blood on his clothes, but they had already coagulated and lost the smell of blood. Moreover, at the same time, a strange world of light appeared behind the youth, displaying broken great mountains one after another. The aura it released was extremely shocking. Lin Tian glanced over. The young man with a muscular build was naturally none other than Fanning Xion. At this moment, the world of light behind him was somewhat tyrannical. Those broken mountains seemed to be nurturing a terrifying energy that could suppress everything. "Immortal splitting mountain of the king's territory," Baiziki said in a deep voice. He had the Thunder God physique, one of the 12 king physiques. Naturally, he would read ancient books about the other king physiques. Other than the reincarnation physiques king region, he had read about the other king physiques in ancient books. Now, he was also very clear about the king's territory of the reincarnation body. After all, he knew that Lin Tian was a reincarnation body and had also seen Lin Tian cast the reincarnation portrait of the king's territory. There are some naturally formed spirit inscriptions here that are extremely beneficial for cultivating divine abilities. He is currently comprehending the king's territory, and he seems to be comprehending it unconsciously. He doesn't even know that he is cultivating the king's territory. Whooshing Crocodile said. Lin Tian nodded. From the looks of it, Fan Yingxiong did not appear to be training on his own. However, it was also because of this that it was even rarer to comprehend the king's territory under such circumstances. It was equivalent to comprehending the Tao. Hence, when Fan Yingxiong woke up after this, his comprehension of the king's territory would definitely be deeper, and his combat power would be much stronger too. At this juncture, he naturally wouldn't disturb him or wake him up. Instead, he stood by the side with the Violet Fairy and the others, waiting for Fan Yingxiong to wake up on his own. Buzz! Light intertwined, and a great force would emanate from Fan Yingxiong's body from time to time, causing the ground to shake slightly. Rumor has it that the Barbarian King physique has infinite power, and that's really the case. Even the king's territory is reflected in the point of power. During the process of comprehension, the ground beneath him is shaking too. Wuxing Crocodile said, "In terms of physical strength alone, I'm afraid only the reincarnation physique can suppress the Barbarian King physique among the other 11 king physiques." Ziki said and glanced at Lin Tianyi. Lin Tian didn't say anything and simply waited quietly at the side while whispering to the Violet Fairy from time to time. Soon, 2 days passed. On this day, the king's territory behind Fan Yingxiong suddenly emitted a dazzling divine light before hiding in his body. In the next moment, Fan Yingxiong opened his eyes with a trace of confusion in them. Gradually, the confusion in his eyes disappeared, and he suddenly looked shocked because at this moment, he saw a group of people standing in front of him as soon as he opened his eyes. However, fortunately, Lin Tian was among them. Fan Yingxiong knew Lin Tian, and after seeing Lin Tian, the surprise on his face disappeared slightly. "Brother Lin, why are you here?" "Also, they are." As he spoke, his expression suddenly changed. "Oh, right. The clan uncles and the branch clan leader are in danger. I have to go to the central main clan to ask the clan leader and the others. I'm trapped here. Brother Lin, you guys can come in, but can you go out now?" A hint of sadness flashed in Lin Tian's eyes, and he paused before saying, "There's no need for that, Yingxiong. The matter outside is already ended." Wuxing Crocodile looked at Fan Yingxiong and didn't say anything at this moment. Ziki and Chiu naturally didn't say anything either. "It's over?" "What do you mean? Brother Lin, you already know what happened to the branch clan there? Then, what happened to my uncles and companions, as well as the old patriarchs of the branch families?" Fan Yingxiong was a little anxious. Lin Tian opened his mouth and said, "They're gone." Fan Yingxiong's burly body trembled violently, and his eyes suddenly became menacing while the veins on his forehead bulged. In fact, before he asked Lin Tian that question, he had already guessed the result. Back then, when the powerhouses of the insect race attacked the branch clan of the barbarian race, the people of the branch clan did their best to protect him and berated him to leave. While he was seriously injured, he ran to the main clan of the barbarian race to ask for help. However, he accidentally entered this space together with a few powerhouses of the insect race who were chasing after him. Afterwards, he couldn't break in for several days and finally fainted for some reason. Now, when he woke up, he knew very well that after such a long time had passed, no one in the branch clan could still be alive. "I want revenge," he suddenly roared, and his entire body was filled with hostility. His eyes were instantly filled with blood vessels, and his appearance was particularly frightening. Lin Tianyi was shocked. At this moment, Fan Yingxiong seemed to have suddenly become demonic and showed signs of losing his rationality. At that moment, he didn't hesitate and directly propped up the reincarnation map. The divine and holy light immediately spread out and enveloped Fan Yingxiong in it, suppressing Fan Yingxiong's violent divine power and stabilizing his mind at the same time. Beside him, the Violet Fairy was originally very calm, but at this moment she was slightly moved and a trace of starlight flashed in her beautiful gem-like eyes. However, in the end, she didn't say anything and just raised her head to look at the divine map in front of her. The reincarnation map shone brightly, and the divine and holy aura surrounded Fan Yingxiong, causing the hostility on Fan Yingxiong's body to gradually weaken. The blood vessels in his eyes also dissipated a lot, and his rationality stabilized. After a while, Lin Tian put away the reincarnation map. Fan Yingxiong was much better, but his murderous aura was still there, and he clenched his fists tightly. I want revenge. I want revenge. We've already had our revenge, Lin Tian said. He told Fan Yingxiong about how he and his group had joined forces with the barbarian tribe's elder and other powerhouses to destroy the insect tribe. Fan Yingxiong trembled again, and tears actually fell from his eyes. My uncles, the old tribe leader, my companions, they all died for me. I've had my revenge, but they can't come back to life. This barbarian youth shed tears and said many things. When he was young, he was naughty and went to steal the eggs of ferocious beasts and almost died, and one of his uncles lost an arm to save him. His companions were older than him, and they gave in to him. The old tribe leader of the branch clan taught him cultivation, and he was more like a teacher, but more like a grandfather. Lin Tian felt very uncomfortable. In front of him, this burly barbarian was crying like this, and he could imagine how terrible it must have been for him. Listening to Fan Yingxiong talk about the past, he finally understood why Fan Yingxiong refused the invitations of the barbarian tribe's elder and the grand elders, and why he didn't want to go to the central main tribe and wanted to stay in the small branch clan. This strong man liked that place from the bottom of his heart. He patted Fan Yingxiong's shoulder and didn't say anything to comfort him, but he blamed himself in his heart. In the end, the destruction of the small barbarian branch clan was ultimately related to him. Whooshing Crocodile, by Ziki, and by Chiu didn't say anything, and the Violet Fairy was even more calm. In the blink of an eye, more than 2 hours had passed, and Fan Yingxiong finally felt much better. He clenched his fists and swore, I will become strong and protect my people in the future. These are the last words my uncles, the old tribe leader of the branch clan, and my companions told me. Hearing Fan Yingxiong say this, Lin Tian nodded and patted Fan Yingxiong's shoulder. That's how it should be. Big guy, in the future, use your fists to tell the world that if anyone dares to bully the barbarians, you will beat them up. This is the hard truth. Whooshing Crocodile spoke at this time. Fan Yingxiong clenched his fists, and there was pain in his eyes, but he nodded heavily. After a while, Fan Yingxiong's emotions became more stable. Lin Tian tilted his head and looked at the Violet Fairy beside him. The Violet Fairy nodded and said, Let's go to the depths of this spirit realm. This spirit realm was very large. Lin Tian let Fan Yingxiong follow, and the group walked towards the depths of the spirit realm unhurriedly. They walked between the strange ancient trees and walked towards the depths. Then, not long after, the roar of a beast rang out, and a wild python dozens of meters long appeared. It flicked its tongue, and its body was covered in poisonous spots. Its snake eyes were crimson red. Boom! The earth shook, and on the other side, a 5-meter-tall fire-devouring gorilla appeared. It spat out flames from its mouth, and its demonic aura was extremely dense. Then, with a rumbling sound, a fierce hurricane rolled up, and a giant bird appeared in the sky. Its eyes were dark blue, and it stared coldly at Lin Tian and the others. It was obvious that it saw them as invaders. Fan Yingxiong was still suffering from the pain of the deaths of his people in the barbarian tribe's branch clan. However, when he saw the 3 ferocious beasts, he was still moved. He said, Be careful. These demonic beasts are very strong. A few of the top half-step great Dao cultivators of the insect race were killed by them in the blink of an eye. Chapter 784. Lin Tian and the others naturally felt the strength of the 3 ferocious beasts. They were almost comparable to the 9th heavenly layer of the Great Path. The demonic chi they emitted was extremely dense. However, Lin Tian and the others were not the least bit afraid of this. Roar! The 3 ferocious beasts roared in unison and rushed towards them. However, in the next moment, the 3 ferocious beasts saw the Violet Fairy beside Lin Tian. They all trembled and immediately fell to the ground. whimpering and trembling. Their demonic eyes were filled with fear. The Violet Fairy was the empress of the demonic beast race, an absolute superior. The three ferocious beasts felt the imperial aura from the Violet Fairy and were naturally terrified. They did not dare to act recklessly in front of the Violet Fairy and all prostrated themselves on the ground, worshipping the Violet Fairy. Lin Tian and the others looked normal, but Fan Xiong was extremely shocked. Before this, the three ferocious beasts had easily killed several top half-step Great Path insect race experts. But now, before they could even fight, they were prostrating themselves on the ground and trembling. This made his face full of shock. Then, he quickly discovered the source of the three ferocious beasts' fear. It turned out to be the little girl beside Lin Tian, who looked to be only 11 or 12 years old. Immediately, he was even more surprised. This, in short, don't worry about anything. Lin Tian patted him on the shoulder. Fan Xiong listened to Lin Tian's words and looked at the Violet Fairy with surprise. He muttered, "Oh, oh, oh." Lin Tian and the others. Lin Tian and the others did not pay too much attention to Fan Xiong's surprise at this moment and continued to walk towards the depths. The group walked on foot. As they walked deeper, several powerful ferocious beasts attacked from the front and back. However, before they really got close, they all prostrated themselves on the ground, intimidated by the Violet Fairy's natural imperial aura. Soon, more than an hour had passed. The group arrived at the depths of the spirit realm. The spirit chi, floating in the air, suddenly rose in a straight line and became extremely dense. As far as the eye could see, there was a spring not far ahead. The water in the spring was slightly viscous, and the dense spirit chi was also spreading out from this viscous water source. Lin Tian was shocked. The spring here wasn't small, with a radius of over 100 feet. This viscous water was actually formed by the liquid form of spiritual energy. Beside him, Bai Ziki, Bai Qiu, and Wuxing Crocodile were all stunned. Even Fan Xiong was no exception. Good stuff. Wuxing Crocodile's eyes lit up as it stared at the spring in front of it. There were many powerful, ferocious beasts around the spring. However, when the Violet Fairy arrived, these ferocious beasts all trembled and fled with their tails between their legs, not daring to act rashly. By relying on the spirit liquid in the spring to cultivate, each of you will be able to raise your cultivation by at least one small stage. Violet Fairy versus Lin Tiandao. Lin Tian nodded and said goodbye to Bai Qiu, Bai Ziki, Fan Xiong, and Wuxing Crocodile before entering the spring. Before coming here, Violet Fairy had already told them that there was something special about this space. Therefore, they were only shocked for a moment before regaining their senses. As for Fan Xiong, Lin Tian had also told him about this on their way to the depths of this space. Lin Tian stepped into the spring and sat cross-legged on the surface of the spring. He raised his head and looked at Violet Fairy. "I will protect you," Violet Fairy said. She brought little AI, and sat down on a blue stone at the side. Lin Tian nodded at Violet Fairy, then closed his eyes and began to circulate the Heart Sutra of Sunday Wong. Faint, golden light intertwined within his body as he began to guide the spirit liquid in the spring to cultivate. Not far from him was Bai Ziki. Faint divine light also intertwined around Bai Ziki's body. However, he wasn't cultivating with the goal of raising his cultivation level. Instead, he was using the spiritual energy here to cultivate some kind of magical power. For a moment, the four people and the crocodile each took a position. The spirit liquid in the spring began to boil involuntarily. Streaks of spirit light rushed out from the spirit liquid and surged towards the four people and the crocodile like streams of light. Wong! Several different auras intertwined, and several different waves of energy spread out. All of them were very powerful. Violet Fairy sat on the blue stone and looked at Lin Tian in the spring. She seemed very calm. "Little sister, what are Big Brother and the others doing?" They didn't sink. Beside her, little AI tilted her head and asked Violet Fairy. Violet Fairy looked down at little AI and said, "They are cultivating." "What is cultivation?" Little AI was very curious. Violet Fairy looked at little AI and paused. She raised her right hand slightly and pointed into the distance. Suddenly, a huge yellow rock rose from the ground and slowly rose into the air. Cultivation is to become stronger, to be able to do many things that ordinary people can't do, to be able to protect those important to you, she said. Even though little AI had seen the Violet Fairy waving her hand and unleashing a strange divine light before, she was still very surprised when she saw this scene. Of course, she was more curious and asked the Violet Fairy softly, "Can little AI cultivate too?" "Yes." Violet Fairy's words were simple. She paused and said, "Do you want to learn?" "Yes." Little AI nodded obediently. Violet Fairy looked at little AI and smiled after a moment. She reached out and rubbed the little girl's head. At this time, she didn't say anything. Instead, she turned to look at Lin Tian. Inside the spring, Lin Tian closed his eyes and silently circulated the Heart Sutra of Sunday. He adjusted his breathing and circulated this ancient sutra to absorb the majestic spiritual energy in the spring. He mixed this spiritual energy with his divine power and used it to refine his divine power. At the same time, he used this divine power to strengthen his body. Wang, faint golden light intertwined around his body. His aura slowly rose. At this time, the divine egg beside his life essence was very quiet. It seemed to be in a deep sleep and didn't come out to absorb the spiritual energy in the spring with him. This surprised him a little, but he didn't care too much. He took a deep breath and calmed down again. The spiritual energy in the spring entered his body and helped him refine his divine power and strengthen his body. It made his aura stronger and stronger. He was now at the connecting immortal level. At this level, he focused on refining his divine power and strengthening his body. At this moment, he kept absorbing spiritual energy into his body so that the refining speed of his divine power and strengthening of his body became faster. At the same time, on the spring, Bai Qiu, Fanning Xiong, and Wuxing Crocodile were all doing the same thing. Only Bai Ziki didn't refine his divine power or strengthen his body. His glabella shone faintly. He was silently comprehending some great technique. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Within the spring, as the spirit chi was refined by the 4 people and 1 alligator, bubbles would appear on the surface of the spring from time to time. The originally viscous spring spirit liquid also gradually became thinner and began to gradually turn into ordinary water. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, more than 6 hours had passed. Lin Tian sat cross-legged on the surface of the spring. Golden light surrounded him. His expression was very focused as he silently cultivated the Heart Sutra of Sunday. At this time, the aura outside his body had risen by a lot. Boom! Suddenly, a majestic force spread out from his body, turning into a majestic hurricane that swept in all directions. He opened his eyes. A bright light flashed in his eyes. Then he quickly suppressed the aura that he had spread out. 8th heaven of the connecting immortal level, he muttered to himself. At this time, he could clearly feel that the divine power in his body had become purer and denser, like a surging yellow river. His sea of consciousness had also become much vaster, and his divine sense had more than doubled in strength. He clenched his fist slightly. Immediately, strands of electric arcs intertwined. His body had also become a little stronger. "Very good," he said to himself. At this time, the spiritual liquid in the spring still contained a lot of spiritual energy. He didn't stand up. Instead, he continued to sit cross-legged on the surface of the spring. He circulated the Heart Sutra of Sun to absorb the spiritual energy in it to consolidate his current level. At this moment, he slowed down the circulation of the Heart Sutra of Sunday. The golden light outside his body naturally faded a lot. However, it gradually gave people a sense of thickness, like a green fruit that was slowly ripening. Just like this, another 6 hours passed in the blink of an eye. After 6 hours, the spiritual liquid in the spring became even thinner. It was no different from an ordinary water source. The spiritual energy contained in it had been completely depleted. Lin Tian opened his eyes again. His cultivation level of the 8th heaven of the connecting immortal level had been completely consolidated. It was unbreakable. A bright light flashed in his eyes. He stood up and looked at Bai Qiu and whooshing crocodile. He found that Bai Qiu had reached the 7th heaven of the connecting immortal level. Whooshing crocodile had reached the 6th heaven of the connecting immortal level, and Fanning Xiong had reached the 4th heaven of the connecting immortal level. They were also consolidating their levels. He looked at Bai Ziki again. Bai Ziki's level was still at the 8th heaven of the connecting immortal level. It hadn't increased at all. Alright, this pig has been cultivating some great technique recently. He's deliberately suppressing the increase of his level. He muttered to himself and walked to the shore of the spring. At this time, Bai Qiu, whooshing crocodile, Fanning Xiong, and the others opened their eyes one after another. There were wisps of light intertwining in their eyes. Awesome! Whooshing crocodile howled. His cultivation level had increased by a whole 3 small levels. Not far away, Bai Ziki also stood up. His cultivation level hadn't changed much, but the aura he exuded had become more condensed. It made him look more unfathomable. Clearly, he had gained something else. The 4 people and the crocodile walked out of the spring. All of them had gained quite a bit of benefits. The violet fairy stood up from the limestone and walked towards Lin Tian with little AI. In this small space of the spirit realm, only this spring was of great use. There wasn't anything special about the other places. Now that the spirit chi in the spring had been completely refined by the 4 people and the crocodile, there was no need to keep it. Lin Tian said something to the violet fairy. The violet fairy raised her hand. Specks of divine light flashed, and a door leading to the outside instantly appeared in this space of the spirit realm. Immediately, they stepped out one after another and reappeared in the mountain range where they had come from. In the mountain range, the sounds of birds, beasts, and insects echoed from time to time. The group followed a direction and quickly walked out. Hero returned to the main barbarian tribe. Now, many barbarian elites are looking for you everywhere. They're all very anxious. Lin Tian said to Fanning Xiong, "You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."